piddling around, going, "Geez, what about a Republican who, for the sake of argument, has this special thing that sounds kind of nice to Democrats or something like being pro-choice or whatever." I'm like, if you're part of the Republican Party, look at the fucking Republican Party. It is marching in lockstep, absolutely and totally. And so you're not part of that program. You're having little differences. They're not that important to you because there's a lot that they've got going on that is definitely very cruel. For instance, just trying to overlook and double down on the January 6th insurrection, which and protecting all the people, telling them they're political hostages when that was literally a situation in which U.S. representatives and senators and the vice president could have been lynched. And then not only that, but all these platforms, they broke up the right wing free speech. What was that right wing free speech? It was nonstop physical threats. It was trying to intimidate everybody and make everybody scared to even hold positions of their own conscience, which is guaranteed in the First Amendment. And then you look at things like, all their little freakouts, what they supposedly believe, they're
Smoke weed
supposedly
every
just, so
day.
pro-life and thinking about the babies, or, they're so supposedly so worried about the vaccine. It's a bunch of fucking malarkey. It's total bullshit. And all you have to do is look, it's gumming up the works. So then if you get in a car accident, you want to go to the hospital, guess what? There's a bunch of fucking unvaccinated people dying in there. They are absolutely taxing the shit out of the hospitals, traumatizing all of our doctors and nurses, taxing the entire healthcare system. Then you look at education. Oh, all these all this fucking hissy fit bullshit about critical race theory and everybody getting up in arms. And what are they doing? They
Nice.
all go to the fucking school board meetings and shout everybody down. They make it impossible to be on a school board unless you also support whatever fucking out of their ass bullshit they
Based.
want to bring up. And why is it out of their ass?
Based.
Why all this fakery and everything? That's because they are cruel and they are coming for you. And people I
I,
need to understand that.
can
I
I
think it's
can I pop in
intentional.
here real quick? I have two things to say. First, PrimeCayes, does your chat ever actually keep on topic, or do they just do their own thing while we're talking? Because I'm reading them and they're having
Based.
a lot of fun over there. But second thing is to specifically, I
Not
believe it's
based.
Dr. Redpill who said earlier that most people are motivated by some sense of altruism or wanting to make the world a better place. I would actually like to refute that as a Texan living in Southern America, specifically a leftist. I typically see a lot of people who are very motivated by a sense of animosity, a sense of opposition to a force or a type of person. Whenever you look at most political engagement, especially from Republicans, but sometimes from Democrats, I will admit, you see specifically a type of enemy, a very specific outline of an opposition party that you are up against, whether that's the SJWs in Gamergate nonsense, whether that's the idea of
Source.
the Taliban when we're talking about international stuff. Like, there is always someone opposite to your political views, assuming you're a conservative being fed propaganda, um, that's driving a lot of this rhetoric and driving a lot of these policies that isn't necessarily just motivated by a sense of making the world better. It's making the world better at the expense of someone else or in spite of someone else.
It's
And that
just
drives a lot of what we see.
it's just
Oh,
differing worldviews. So it's we're becoming more and more split ideologically over the
I
past like 10 or
am
20
TYT.
years. We've gone from like relative consensus between the parties, like
Thank you
and
very much.
mutual like uh, a lack of malevolent motivations. And yes, like worldviews have diverged quite a bit, and people feel like other worldviews are going to shape the world in a way that's not good. But I mean, take this
Look at my dad.
each side thinks the other side is like lost, but like think if they have like access to a child, they think that child is pure, and if they were raised in a way that they agreed with, they think they could create a better world. Like, so the animosity you see is just like, I agree, like we are like super split between like parties and like the left right
Yeah.
dichotomy, but like in general, people want the best for other people in general, and
I
they
see
think the world.
billboards
Yeah.
advocating. I see billboards advocating for people that need to be killed. All right. I drive down the highways from here to Dallas. I see some nonsense. All right. I see some bullshit. You can't
Can you
tell me
describe
that there
that in
isn't.
I think you
detail?
see
like you to
both.
be killed? What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
understand that.
okay, there's this billboard from on Highway 45 in Texas that says the in November the Demon Rats will pay. God bless Governor Greg Abbott and Trump. I can't tell you off the top of my head what exactly it says, but it describes the opposition party as literal demons and
Someone was
says that
being
they're
edgy.
going to pay.
It sounds like someone was being
They
edgy.
bought out, yeah, they bought out a whole fucking billboard and
someone being
decided to be
edgy
That to
or
the entire party.
Are you really scared for your life without that?
No,
Is
what
that
I'm
an
really scared
actual
for
threat?
is the fact. What I'm really scared for is the fact that you're trying to tell me that there's some aspect of altruism in that.
I mean, obviously, there's no aspect of altruism in that sign. That sign's obviously just an own the libs type of sign. But I want to go back to something Scene challenged me on. Because I
Sen.
didn't have the Sen.
Yep, you got it.
Sorry, Sen. He wanted me to look up what they think about teaching children. So I did. 73% of Republicans believe that teens should receive more information about abstinence and birth control and sexuality transmitted disease in school. So in the VC chat, I included an article and so I'd just like to mention that. Like, I feel like you guys are attacking this character of Republicans that, oh, they're these big bad guys. And you haven't looked at, like, well, do they actually believe this? You're just targeting this, like,
Yeah, do that, duty.
ephemeral
That's
version
bullshit.
of
I
evil
have
For sure.
Republicans
man.
in I have Republicans in my family. I know what Republicans are about. So I don't need to, it's not some. They're not in some fucking different state or something like that. I know who
Are
these
they
people
evil?
are. I'm not. What's that?
Are they evil? Do they have like ill intent?
Can people
towards
be
people in
evil?
general?
Can people be evil?
People can be evil, yes.
Then
He was
yes.
asking about your specific family members.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
do
asking
you
about the
consider your
people you
family
know.
members evil?
I think they're engaged in evil behavior, and I think, for instance, like, being so cavalier about the vaccines, and being part of those protests, anti-mask protests that were definitely that just happened right after news came out that Black and brown communities were affected disproportionately. I know these people. They get off on it, and that's just. I mean, what is evil? It's like, well, if you're trying to overturn an entire election, if you try to null and void the entire Detroit
Stella Artois.
population's vote
Yeah.
because you're trying to overturn an election
Source.
legally, then this kind of stuff is definitely, it's not on the level, right? It definitely harms people. It definitely pulls rights away. It's definitely negligent. What's so fucking, why are you so oblivious? At this point, it's like in Texas, like, all these women, they're gonna be absolutely fucked if they get pregnant. You know what I mean? And you guys are like, gosh, well,
Not
gosh, I
necessarily.
just don't know. I mean, it just seems like a.
None of us are defending that law. And
It's-
also, bringing
yeah,
up
none of-
vaccines
none
is
of us
probably
are.
the
Well, where do you
worst
think
evidence
that's
you
going?
could. Hold
Where
up.
do you think
bringing,
that's going?
Bringing
No,
up vaccines is the worst evidence of intention over just being idiots that I've ever heard. Because you know who's predominantly being hurt by these anti-maskers and
Actually.
It's Republicans. So the idea that they're
Actually.
maliciously targeting the Democrats by themselves not getting vaccinated
No,
is just
this is what they're
ridiculous.
doing. They are trying to make it so that the attempt to deal with COVID in the United States doesn't work, and they will take
Why would they do
casualties
that?
in
Brain power
ensure
to
it.
do that. They
Because
don't have the
they
brain
want to be in
power.
power. They want to.
They don't have the brain
power.
power to think like that.
They
Can I get a
want-
response? Because I was okay.
There are a lot
Yes,
of
Christine,
morons,
go ahead.
and they're in there intubated,
Percent.
right?
My bad.
But there are people who are running the show. It's top down. It's an authoritarian thing. That's why they're in lockstep, and that's what's going on.
Okay.
You would think I'm lying. Okay,
I-
get
I
on the
get a
panel. Tell
response.
me
I
about
was
it.
responded to. Can I get okay? I want to go because I was directly responded to. Before we continue, Prime, can I appeal to you real quick? Because I'm looking at the definition and I see nothing in cruelty that implies intent. The only thing I see is taking pleasure in, and that doesn't imply intent. So we can't have this conversation if these guys do not know
Yes,
what
it does.
cruelty means. Read the
Listen,
goddamn definition
Wait,
then.
wait, wait, wait. Just listen to me. Just listen to me. Just listen. So if you take
Read the
pleasure in something,
definition.
listen.
Where? What
I mean,
definition?
that's a
Okay,
strong
then show me the
motivator.
Google.
I mean, I just did Google definition. Cautious indifference to or pleasure in causing pain.
Yeah,
Cautious
that doesn't say intent.
Right,
Indifference is the opposite of intent.
Pleasure. Okay, pleasure is
callous. Do you
correlated
think
with
callous
intent.
doesn't have
Indifference.
intentionality to it? Like,
No.
look, okay. If a rock falls on you, do you think that rock is being cruel?
Yeah, your treatment can be cruel. You get crushed by a fucking rock.
No,
you know
wait,
that's
wait.
cruel?
Hold
Ben, you're
on.
looking at the legal definition. We're talking
no.
about the social real world.
I mean, the
definition.
world is very cruel, but I
Hold
don't
on,
know if this
wait, hold on.
applies.
Wait.
You can personify the world, but I don't think anyone would actually describe a rock as cruel and malicious.
Psychopathic
Problematic.
tendency.
Problematic. You
It's
can't
a
describe
cruel
it as
fate.
cruel
Put it
because it
that
can't
way.
take
Cruel fate.
pleasure. It can't take pleasure in the harm it causes. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Whether or not
Does
there's
it-
some
does it have to
enjoyment or
be-
some,
If there's
Does it have to
enjoyment,
be
then
about
it's
enjoyment for
enjoyment
something
and
to be
punishment.
cruel? I don't
there
think
has to
something
be
has
some
to be enjoyment for
satisfaction
something to be
in
cruel.
the. Well, no, there has to be some amount of satisfaction, some amount of positive
Yeah.
feedback in order for it to be cruel. Otherwise, it is just for specifically cruelty. I think that's a very important distinction here.
When soldiers went to Vietnam and killed people, civilians, and they did it like
If they
And
did it
they
for
didn't enjoy
funsies, then yeah, it was cruel. Yeah, if they enjoyed it, then yeah, it was
If
cruel.
they enjoyed it, it's sadistic, and sadistic is like to
A
peel
type
that
of
away from
cruel.
intent.
Y'all
like
fuckers. I asked Prime, none of you. Prime, I love you. Please tell me if you would say this implies intent or not. Because then I'll make an argument based on that.
So I can't just tell the panel this is the definition.
Okay.
Absolutely, right? Like you guys can work it out for yourselves. I'm leaning towards that I'll say that cruelty doesn't rely on intent. Maybe not cruel rocks. That's leave that to you. But I don't think. I think. Yeah, I think you can engage in a cruel action, not have intended it to be cruel. Like that part is not doesn't matter. Like the outcomes matter on whether that action was actually cruel.
Okay.
Well, there's a difference between
No.
cruel actions and cruel people, right? So yes,
Right.
what Prime said was completely right. I 100% agree with that. But if a good or an ignorant, let's not ascribe goodness to them either. If an ignorant person does harm to someone, I would consider the harm that they're doing that could be a cruel act, but them as a cruel person because of that, I think cruelness does imply some sort of intentionality. And
it's just a negligent person.
Okay, so I'm a utilitarian. I don't give a fuck.
me too.
We're
I
talking
don't.
about. Yeah, no. Then why do you care about how people are? Then we're talking
Wait.
about actions and the utility of their
your
actions.
future actions, because your
Wait.
future actions depend on your intent. Like
No,
the
but we-
likelihood of repeating
Yeah,
them.
and we know what they will be. It's just more cruel.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
If you're a cruel person, you're
what
going
is
to
it- what
perpetuate
is it that
cruelty.
makes
You know,
someone
it's
cruel?
obvious.
So I don't know about y'all. I care about the cruelty of the actions. If y'all want to get all mushy with the feelings of how conservatives feel, if they're advocating for shitty policies, I can call that cruel. Does anyone disagree with that?
Let's
Wait,
talk
saying-
about specific policies.
No,
No, if they're
wanted to
advocating
ask-
for
I think
cruel
that we
policies,
have
they're
to figure
cruel.
out- we have to figure out what cruel is here because we have to define it ourselves. We might as well just figure it out. So, what is the difference between a cruel person and a cruel action? Problematic. What is it that makes someone cruel if it isn't their actions? I'm asking.
Join Stella
legitimately.
Artois.
Repeated
Well,
behavior and
again,
intent.
it would. You can just call me Pan. But
Oh,
it would
Pan?
just.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason that I wouldn't say it requires intentionality, oh, I'm doing this to be cruel, or some sort of super callous negligence.
So-
now, if you're trying to argue that hey, the utils that come out of Republican policies are negative, therefore the Republican policies are bad, that's completely fine, and I would agree with you on that, obviously.
Okay.
But I feel like the word cruel does mean something completely different than just causes harm.
Okay, I'll let you respond, and then I'll go.
One sec, guys.
No, I was just asking what would make an action cruel in itself? Pan, what what do you define as a cruel action? If it does it require that sort of intent behind it, and so can it only be done by a cruel person?
Well, it can. I would say I don't think it requires a certain like type of person to do it. Like, so if you can do something. Ah, fuck. I don't really know how to explain this. Would you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
So, what makes an action cruel necessarily? If it isn't done by a cruel person, is it still cruel? Because you mentioned this intentionality to it. Like, can an action be cruel without it being done by a cruel person? Like,
Well, I don't think actions
what
are
I'm
ever
saying?
done without people, though, right?
If
So
there was a person, say my family was murdered by someone, and then I get my hands on him and I do something cruel to him, I might do a cruel action to someone because they've like aggrieved me so bad that like I do this specific action, and I might never do another cruel thing in my entire life. That's an example of when you could be cruel in one instance and not have a repeated behavior pattern where you're cruel all the time.
well, that's certainly an example. Yeah, where you're necessarily a cruel person, but
The difference is that you're signing onto a program of cruelty. You know, when you're a
Sure.
Republican, or when you're giving Republicans a pass,
No, wait,
when you
we
get
have to
into little
establish that.
definitional
Wait,
arguments, then
William.
then that means that you're signing, you're complicit in it, and it's a program of cruelty. You know, we have a history of that in the United States.
You have to
No,
know
but we
it's
have to
cruel going in.
establish that this program is cruel in order to like actually call it a cruel program. Like they're not on board with us just saying that in the first place. So what I'm trying to do is like figure out what exactly it is that we're arguing about before we try to make the arguments. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I think it might just be
that's
semantics.
your project, not mine.
If you guys believe that like okay, harm and cruelty basically mean the same thing, then that's fine. That's just semantics. But I don't see any reason to be animus to Republicans unless they're doing this intentionally.
Of
Because
course
if,
you can.
if they're not like actors,
Of
No.
course you
Well-
can. Absolutely.
No.
Well, there
Absolutely,
are-
of course you can.
Yep,
Oh,
Well,
fuck
then
that.
the
Okay,
argument
hold
would
on,
be-
hold on.
The argument would
The argument would be then, and this is an extreme example. I know I'm using an extreme example. Godwin's rule is about to come in. Right, we're gonna do it.
Oh,
We're
shit.
gonna do it. Here it
Oh, God.
comes.
Join
Prepare.
Stella Artois.
Right.
Oh
But
shit.
Yeah.
if you supported,
Oh
if
boy.
you were a German during the Nazi reign and you supported their programs, if you understood what they're actually doing, not all the Germans actually knew, right? But if you understood that this is their goal, right? We're talking about having to exterminate the Jews, right? Even if you didn't even understand about the camps, right? But you supported the general idea that Jews were the problem, and you never did anything. You never actually committed any of those actions. You just supported, just like these guys. This Hitler guy seems to know what he's talking about. If that went to your mind, then you're supporting cruelty. You are cruel.
I'm not.
Silence is violence.
In that
Right.
example, you made like a intentional. You were like, to be clear, these aren't just people who don't know what's happening. These are people who know what's happening and want it to happen, right? And the
Well,
knowing
yeah.
and wanting it to happen is what makes the difference for me. I would completely agree with you. All of the Nazis who wanted the Jews exterminated, even if
Okay.
they didn't kill a Jew, those are cruel people.
Great.
Right? I don't think we disagree.
So
Yeah, but there's more
then on
to
the
it.
other side, we have Republican actual policies that actually bring pain upon individuals, and they know it. Because here's what I don't like about this conversation. It seems like you're infantilizing Republicans. Oh, these are all fools who don't understand the consequences of their actions, right? Some of them are, right? And in fact, lots of people, like on Democrat and Republican side, don't know the actual consequences of the policies that they're pushing, right? Because people are apolitical, right? So they'll support a party and they're apolitical, but they don't know much about what it is. They're just like culturally Republican and culturally Democrat, right? But most people, but I would first of all put that a lot of Republicans do understand. They do know what the point is of all these things, right? And then even if you don't know, right? So even if you don't know, but you are still supporting something,
You're
right?
co-signing to the culture. That's what's
I think
happening.
there is some sort of, and you don't take the opportunity to learn, right? Something as simple as
Based.
your political party, right? There's like plenty of information available. This is not something that's hidden, right? But you don't ever actually take the opportunity to learn what these policies are I think you still bear some moral responsibility for that. So I don't think you can hide behind your ignorance, one or the other.
And I want to add to that. Like you're talking about the billboard, and you're saying, "Oh, it's just an edgy billboard and everything like that." There was tons of edgy literature coming out in Weimar Germany. You know, they were totally. So you could be like, "Well, I hate the Jews,
Wait,
but I don't want to exterminate them."
I'm not gonna let you like
I wanna
pull
look
out
on
a
the
billboard
please.
to
Let's
like a
not.
Mein Kampf.
No.
That's just one example.
Well,
that was
how
just one
about the
example, okay?
American South and the literature and billboards in the American South? It's the same. It's the same
They
way.
say some cringy shit.
Oh, what did
gonna
they
bring it
say?
up.
You
What
don't
was
even
their
gotta go on
cringy
that. You
shit?
can just
What
go
did
on
they
Twitter
say?
and see somebody as a
Say what they
landlord.
said.
No, hold on.
Say
That
what
would
they
be
said.
my
You said
point. That,
Antifa said some cringy shit. What did they say?
well, no, wait. The point of that,
Just
me
say
bringing
it.
up
You,
the billboard.
it's ridiculous, but you don't have
Hold
anything
on.
to say. You don't have a fucking
point of me
thing to say.
Debt
bringing
to
up the
rich people,
billboard
eat the
was
rich,
saying,
debt to landlords. You pick it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the point was I was saying that cruelty motivates a lot of our politics, not just this idea of trying to make the world a better place. It's specifically make the world a better place because fuck these guys in particular, okay? That's the point I was trying to make by bringing up the billboard.
Okay.
All right? And can I live that down for the love of God?
Really quick, can I get
fuck
in?
these guys in particular policy? Like maybe I'm
Okay,
missing
wait.
that.
I have a great idea, and I want to address the pan because he's been like addressing me specifically. Do you view the U.S. border policy as cruel?
Yes, I
Or,
do.
like, during Trump. Okay. Do you think if Republicans consistently vote for a president that enact that border policy, why would you lose all utility if you cannot call that cruel?
I
If you just
agree.
did-
The policy is cruel. Yes.
Yes, but they're voting for the policy. Just because
Not
they're
only
ignorant
are
does
they
not mean it's
voting-
cruel.
They voted for the
Voting because of
rhetoric.
The
policy.
reason they're voting
Not
for the
based.
policy, right, is some bullshit. Like it's bullshit about fucking need borders or whatever. Like blah blah blah. We need a wall. Like it takes away jobs.
Because they
from
want to
Americans.
keep
Bullshit
people
like
out
that,
of our
right?
country.
Yeah,
Well,
but
no,
these,
I guess the question I have
They wanna
is,
be
which do you
cruel.
think comes first? What do you think comes first? Do you think the wanting to save American jobs comes first, or the hating Mexicans comes first? Because
I think it's the hating Mexicans.
I think the
Hating
American jobs
hold on,
comes first,
hold
and
on.
then they decide, like, trust me, incorrectly to hate Mexicans.
Okay, so there's a lot of things to do with that.
But they
No,
bought into
wait.
the platform though.
Okay.
Like look at like what happened when Trump ran, right? Like people flooded to him. They bought into the platform. They knew what they were buying into. They knew what they were buying into. You could not miss the guy on TV. And you could say, okay, well, that's just Trump. That's not the Republicans. I'm sorry, guys. That's the Republican Party now. That's where it's at. And
Yeah,
and as a
absolutely.
result,
Chance had a little
your
bit.
common-headed Republican friends that used to be kind of normal, that you could kind of converse with, that at some places you could find that cohesion with, I'm not seeing it anymore. I mean, I have
think
family
the
members that
crazy
I'm completely
Republicans are just
disconnected now.
Shouting the more sensible ones, because
No,
you see this
listen.
giant fight internally in the Republican Party. You see the more like centrist Republicans struggle with the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is like the head of their party now. There's a giant civil war in the Republican Party.
They still vote Republican. Listen, if they still voted Republican after the child separation policy, they're cruel.
Okay, well, you have to remember, in elections, if you were only given two
Yeah, it was passed
choices,
because
you're
of
voting
Mitt
for the
Romney,
lesser of two
because of
evils.
Okay, really quick. Pan, because this is going to be my olive branch, okay, I'm extending this. Do you think someone can still be a victim of their ideology and that ideology still be cruel?
Yeah, of course. I
Then
wouldn't
that's-
say they're a victim of their ideology, though. I wouldn't say they're cruel.
You just said that agreed with me and then disagreed with me, so which is it?
No, I don't think I did. I thought I agreed
I just
with that.
asked whether you think they're cruel because of their ideology.
No, you
this
didn't.
is starting to
If
get
they're
crazy.
So the
misguided-
ideology could be cruel, but
Yeah, if they're
you can be a victim
misguided,
of
then
an
no.
ideology, and the ideology can be cruel. Exactly.
So then, okay, so let's say we prescribe the ideology cruelness, but not the person. So does that mean I can't call anyone cruel because their ideology is cruel? Could I not call Hitler cruel because he's a victim of his ideology?
How is victim?
You're cruel
Hitler
in
a victim of
practice.
his
People
You
need
ideology?
to-
absolutely are cruel in practice.
He
No, the
was
intentionality of Hitler.
He was empowered. That's a
It has a lot to do with how you feel about it too. Like, do you get off on it? Do you get off on the pain of others? If so, then yes. And I think that a lot of Republicans that were pro-Trump were getting off on the pain of others. That was evident to me. They loved owning the libs. Everything was about hurting the people that had any complaints about what was happening.
And
Instead
if
of,
they
hey,
did
let's
support
find a
the
way to
job
work
things,
together
they
to
would be
fix it.
Incorrect, because all statistics
Yes,
show.
they are incorrect. I agree
So-
completely.
I would say that even if they're misguided, the idea is cruel, and then by virtue of that, If I want to call someone cruel for adopting a cruel policy, I think that you're losing all utility if you have to prescribe something to someone's ideology and not to them.
Do you think there's a difference between someone who knowingly just wants to keep brown people out and someone who wants something and then incidentally keeps them out? Do you think there's a difference in category? Right, but there's still a difference in categorizing the two of them as different things, right? They're not the same thing.
There's a difference, but that doesn't make either of them not cruel. There is a difference, but that doesn't make them not cruel.
Okay, but what word should we use to differentiate those two people?
No, wait. Why do you need to
Republican and
them?
non-Republican?
Because they're different.
So
no, wait. In what way?
Yeah, they can be misguided and cruel, but that doesn't mean that they're not cruel.
Are you saying that
I think the people who want plausible deniability, people who are a little bit nervous about how brash or how out of control somebody like Donald Trump is, like, ooh, I'm nervous about this, but yeah, maybe it'll smash through and I make money off of it or gain some kind of advantage from it, but I still have to be in respectable company and I still want to have plausible deniability. I think that's essentially the difference. And you talk about ignorant people just joining on. It's like, well, if like anywhere, if people start to get the upper hand socially, then people start to identify with power, and people are authoritarian without necessarily being cruel, but they will be, if the authority is being cruel, then they are going to participate in the cruelty and they'll give it a pass.
My question is, have y'all actually talked to any of these people? Because if you have a conversation with the Republican, you realize very quickly that a lot of their shit is "fuck you," whoever.
No, you're too online. You're too online.
This is where I have like a strong.
I have a little bit of a differing opinion as well.
No, that's kind of why I brought it up.
Hold on.
Because it entirely depends on the Republican you talk about. If you're talking about the Republican that you might find in a Discord room, in a politics server, or inside here, 100%, right? Everybody's polarized, especially if they have their own Twitch thing, because they're trying to they might be trying to monetize their platform. They can't be budged from their perspectives. Like, that is something special. The reality is the most people, left and right, do not participate inside these spheres, do not have these frequent conversations, and they don't have these crazy polarizing ideas oftentimes either way. Or if they do, I don't think they honestly come from a place of malice. They come from a place of ignorance when it comes down to a lot of these things. My experience, right, is when I went to Miami Beach. Like, I used to live in Miami Beach. I used to live in Miami. I lived in a very expensive area. Mostly everybody there was white. Mostly everybody there was Republican. I'm still left leaning. I'm still Democrat. I talked to them, right, and I have these ideas with them, and it's like literally talking to these guys is like they don't have the perspective. Period. Like, done and done. They don't have the perspective that's putting them into putting these issues, and I disagree wholeheartedly that if you're going to talk the massive Republican population, they're all like evil.
Are racist acts cruel?
No, hold on.
Hold on. Are racist acts cruel?
I would say so.
Yeah, by the very definition of intent, absolutely they're cruel.
Are racist acts cruel?
I would imagine so. I'm trying to think of a perspective like where it wouldn't be, and I'm like struggling a bit.
It's the intent and the.
So hold on.
Yeah,
but you can
100.
So racist acts are cruel, okay? But can you be racist without intending to be racist?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Okay, so you can commit a cruelty without intending to be cruel.
Does that make you cruel though? Like, if this
Republicans,
do I get to slap the label of cruel on you forever now?
Support cruel policies.
But do you?
The entire conversations. You guys are so worried about slapping the word cruel to each individual person, right? As if that matters. It actually doesn't. It doesn't matter at all for the outcomes, right? Like, if all of them are angels who go and support their local soup kitchen, right? Who I don't know, donate to charity, like all that shit, right? If all of them are angels, yet they support all of the exact same policies, right? And that cruelty is being done in the world. What fucking difference does it make?
Well, it would be educatable. Like, for example,
Everyone has some degree of racism.
You can change their minds and still call them cruel.
But
these aren't
You
like
were cruel.
They're not gonna
You
change
were
your minds
cruel.
and
Remember
become
that?
them like
True.
people face. You're cruel. Change your ideas. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, but that's not
People
how
can
you
be
can-
cruel and then not be cruel. Being cruel is a state. It's not something that you're permanently stuck in. You know,
Exactly.
you can not be cruel if you choose to change the direction of what it is you're doing. Now, I have known Republicans that I was able to sit down and have conversations with and actually came to consensus on some things, and they listened because there are some reasonable ones out there. However, the louder ones, like we were saying, like I was trying to explain before, are always talking over people. And that's preponderantly what you get. And that's preponderantly what you get out here, in, especially on the interwebs, like somebody else was saying. But when you go and sit down with people, sometimes, not all the time, now, I've been in situations both. I've seen the polarized guys that'll flip me off when they see my Bernie sticker. And I've seen the other guys that'll sit down and ask me, well, why do you support Bernie? You know, so it goes both ways. We are humans. We are inherently human, and to boil us down to this or that is stupid. Now, the question about whether Republicans, big tent, the whole deal, are cruel, yes. The party is cruel. The institution of the Republican Party, with the policies they push and everything they're doing, the institution is cruel. And I think people buy into it for multitude of reasons. I think a lot of it is economically related. I think a lot of it has to do with fears about what they don't know about people from different cultures because they just haven't lived around people of different cultures. I think a lot of it has to do with being brought up in a way that was traditionally racist, and they think that the world still exists that way. And as a result, you get a lot of those, all that culminating in that party. And, you know, every once in a while, yeah, you can pull people out that turn out to be very good people that are no longer cruel because they've seen, you know you can change
AM
people.
radio. The other thing is AM radio. So long before internet was going on, you know, you had Rush Limbaugh's and
Oh yeah.
Beck and so on and stuff like. So, and they completely indoctrinated like the Midwest, you know, to all this conservative ideology, to the point where it just becomes floating in the culture, and people take up little cruelties along the way, and they're just going about their life trying to be normal, and they're not trying to get in arguments and this sort of thing, and they don't want to think about politics. It's not their bailiwick or whatever, but they have cruel ideas about, say, homeless people, or about gay people, or about women, or any of those things casually. And any of these people that you can sit down and have a coffee while you're out in the community or whatever you're saying, you know, those people, if you investigate, they're going to have some kind of some cruel thoughts. And that's why when they go to vote, everybody that goes to vote, you know, they're looking at the, you know, voting guides and stuff like that. It's kind of obvious, you know, and they choose the one that goes along with what they think, what they've been indoctrinated to think through AM radio, and how that just basically starts to pervade the culture. That's the point of propaganda.
And
I also
another thing is that you guys are assuming like cruel means evil. Cruel does not necessarily mean evil. Doesn't mean you are some intractable force looking to do harm in the world, right? Cruel just means cruel, doing something to harm others, right?
I think,
and maybe even enjoying
utility.
it. But yeah, but that is to say though, there are some evil individuals out there within the Republican Party and elsewhere, obviously.
I think it's very useful.
It's not synonymous with cruelty.
I think it's useful to save cruelty for intent, because I mean, maybe we need more words here. But you brought up like racism, and like, can you be racism and be cruel, like unintentionally? I think it's useful to like create like a bifurcation where we use words like cruel when people intend, because words lose their power if you overuse them. So if we start like labeling everything cruel when people are doing unintentional things and having negative outcomes, is that word useful anymore? We need to save words that like imply intent for intentionally bad actions.
Okay,
I'd say the Supreme Court ruling that just dropped around the Texas abortion law is pretty cruel, and that was all Republicans. So, you know.
I'll absolutely agree with that. Can I? Okay.
Go ahead, Sen. Go ahead.
Two things really quick, because I really want to hear from Dr. Red Pill, because I think he's like the only centrist in here when we're all like leftists, it seems. Problematic Pan, there's an argument that you kind of like left drift that no one really responded to. Calling people cruel in like a direct conversation to change their minds obviously is dumb. You don't want to like do that if you're trying to convince Republican. I'll absolutely agree with that, because you said you don't want to call them cruel because that'll like convince them not to change. Yeah, that's true, but like I think this is like a different discussion. And I don't think pretty much anyone would disagree that calling someone cruel is a bad way to convince them of your ideas. Dr. Red Pill, like the thing that we have to argue here is I would say categorically voting for the Republican Party already shows your intent. Like you can be changed off of it and you can be changed that, but I would not like refuse calling them cruel. So like what we have here is we already can see how they're going to vote. We have like voting records. We see what they're going to do. So like the intent here, as much as you can use it to predict their future actions, is almost like non-existent. Like you already have other evidence that we can use. I would not say that you can call like, and I'm also interested to hear how you would distinguish between actions and people. But like, I think calling it a uncruel action or calling someone uncruel for advocating for our current border policy or advocating, for example, the Texas bill that we're dealing with, like it loses all of the utility of the word cruel.
Can I ask, like, specifically what part of the border policy do you think is the cruel part?
Oh, there's
family
a lot
separation.
Yeah,
family separation.
Are
That's
we
the
not
main
doing
one.
family separation anymore?
I was talking about
Family
Trump's policy
separation?
specifically. We're not, but I was like referring to that policy. If you want to talk about it more, there's a lot of action. I think there's like a common sense action that can be taken now, but I would still overall call like the system cruel, like that we're denying so many people, especially when we can like let in so many more people than we actively do. We could fit like easily another 1 million people in here.
Well, not
and
even
the
that.
Republicans still have a problem. Like the Republicans wouldn't even notice like a major problem if we like fit in another 1 million people.
No, it's not even that. It's the fact that it's constitutionally necessary for us to take these people in as asylum seekers because we agreed to the treaty that allows them to do this, and by the Constitution, we're supposed to allow them to seek the asylum they're, going after.
What part of the Constitution?
Specifically, it's the part that says that we have to abide by any treaties that we sign.
Yeah, we're also breaking it.
Yeah, we're breaking international law by doing this. What we essentially did by keeping all these people at the border was fence them in an area and say you can't leave this, because if you do, you can seek asylum in any major location, whether it's a police station, church, etc., etc. What we essentially did was put them in limbo where they couldn't leave, but they also couldn't go back. If they actually managed to reach any sort of location they could claim asylum at, which a lot of them could legally do, and then they would be put through the process that we already have in place for that, then it would be fine. But we prevented them from even doing the legal avenues of approach by our immigration policy, by keeping them in these camps at the border, these, let's call them what they are, concentration camps at the border. Like, we prevented them from being what they are, asylum seekers, by seeking asylum at the legal places they're allowed to do so. That is an aspect of cruelty. Preventing
one booty emote at a time.
Happening only because they happen to come from this particular part of the world, it seems, because there doesn't seem to be any other justifiable reason or even like logical or rational reason for us to have done this, because every other sensible thing would have been allowing them to do what they're legally allowed to do, seek asylum.
There's an obvious reason that the system is totally overwhelmed, and there's like a 9-month or like longer waiting period for anyone. We're trying to process an insane number of people.
Look at my down.
Well, then,
look at my down.
It doesn't have anything to do with us keeping. Doesn't have anything to do with us keeping to our international agreements, which again are constitutionally necessary, right?
It involves devoting a lot of money and resources to like handling that problem, and just
so does keeping them in camps. Money and resources. That is a lot of resources to keep them in camps, to keep them guarded, to keep the border guarded.
Yeah, really quick, Dr. Red Pill, can I like just preface where we're talking about like Trump's previous policy specifically, not what's happening now. So like what's happening now is different.
Yeah,
we were addressing
we're
Trump.
just turning them away at the border.
We were talking about Republicans, so specifically we're talking about Trump, not really Biden's policy. That's an entirely separate conversation.
Just in general, I want you guys to be able to steelman like the Republican position, which is like if you set a precedent that you allow all the asylum seekers that have any viable claims whatsoever, and you can't properly vet them, and you'll take most of them. You're setting a standard that tells them, and this is what what happened when Joe Biden took his presidency. People flooded more than ever because they got this sense, they got the message like, guess what? Someone who is like accepting will take you now, and we're gonna get a ton of people. Too many to handle, too many to process, and we're gonna be trying to catch up the entire time. And
so we handle them and process. So we handle them and process them by putting them in camps instead. Like what you're telling me.
We try our best. We try our best. It's an impossible situation.
No, what you're telling me.
The intent was cruel. We had other ways to deal with it.
Yeah, no, what you're telling me is that we have the money and the resources to process them, but as fucking criminals rather than as asylum seekers. Like what you're telling me is that the process that we. No.
You missed the part where I talked about setting a precedent. If you make it easy and you process them all and like get them in. Now you're gonna get more coming.
We already set that precedent by agreeing to the terms that allow these people to access us by legal means through asylum seeking, right?
And I also want to mention really quick
just
that
because you apply for asylum doesn't mean you get asylum.
Yeah, that too.
That needs to be said. Just
also,
because someone's coming over and say I need asylum doesn't mean they should get.
What happens practically is like we can't process you, so we're like, okay, you can go do your thing in the meantime. And often that's what happens. It's like, here's your court date. Show up in like 13 months, and they don't show up, and now we have people in the country.
So you've moved from your original points that we can't process these people to what we're at now, which is these people will just run free.
Yeah, and first of all, that's not true. That is not true. That is not true. The vast majority of people who went through that process did show up at their court dates because they wanted to be legal. They didn't simply want to run. Right? That is not true.
I'm not saying they don't. Okay. I'm not saying they don't show up. I'm saying like it is a long process, and like in the meantime, they are in limbo and they are, unaccounted for.
And I also want to remind everyone real quick, I'm going to talk over this. We're forgetting the very crucial detail that our drug policies are the ones that caused so much immigration and why they're having so many problems over there. Our previous cruel actions caused our cruel results to do more cruel actions. And thank you for agreeing with me. I appreciate the centrist sentiment sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree with the drug policy.
So, our drug policy is the one that created these people that are seeking asylum. And, there's things that we could do right now. Maybe legalize a lot of the drugs that we use. That could solve a lot of, at least, over time, start solving these problems and creating these, I don't think they're crises, but, some of the people might call them crises. We have solutions. It's not hard. We can't complain about the problems that we cause and then cause more problems by trying to solve the problems that we caused. And I agree that Democrat policy can additionally be harmful in this, but I guess for the now I'm directly speaking towards Republicans because that's the topic. And if Prime wants to do another topic about whether Democrats are cruel, I would be on that panel in a second. And it's also generally a topic.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Whatever you guys want to talk about, it's fine.
Okay.
But yeah. I just find it amazing that there were a lot of conservatives in chat who had a lot of shit to say about all this, right?
But you didn't show up in this stream. Look at the chat.
Not a single one.
Why is that?
I just see these Republican tough guys, right? A lot of shit to say. Give them the opportunity
calling me
to
a
say
pussy and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep, right? They call leftist snowflakes. The moment they have to defend their ideas, run the other way. Gone. I've seen it dozens of times. I've seen it hundreds of times. Yeah. Ugh, it is what it is.
Well, it kind of lends to the cruelty argument because it shows they know that they're being cruel. They know that their belief system or how they view or why they believe that is with malintent, so then of course they have nothing to they don't know what to say when you're okay, well, defend yourself.
They'll probably get dogpiled here. It is like a numbers game to a large extent.
Oh no! Fuck that. I agree.
It is much more fun to be outnumbered than to.
If they're so afraid, then I can even limit the number of participants. I'll do that. I'll one-on-one
get out
all
if
of
they
them.
come on.
I can have only conservatives on, and I'll one-on-one all of them, right? But
Fuck yeah, based.
every fucking time,
Maybe
when
not
it
with
comes
your
to these
voice
things,
gone, but
they disappear. They disappear. Thank you, Monkey, for being so kind as to use your Prime Gaming. Thank you, thank you.
Prime will fight all of y'all. Like one-on-one boxing match, he'll take all of you on.
But they all disappear. They all run away. There's always an excuse. Always an excuse. From the tough guys. From the tough guys. But anyway.
I feel like the conversation regarding like labeling Republicans as like cruel, I feel like it's a pretty like toxic direction for a conversation. Just because like I feel like a lot of the strengths that come from the American like system in terms of like how our government works comes from having like different opinions, right? So like I feel like it's really toxic if you were to like label an ideal as being like cruel um because you like don't agree with it.
I think he's got laryngitis or something. You know, he does this every single night for a long time.
And it seems purposeful. And even if it's not purposeful, they're causing a degree of harm.
I would be on a healthy dose of tea and all sorts of stuff if I were him. It's like when I was singing all the time.
They want a very different world than what I do, and I'm willing to cooperate with them and negotiate with them. I cannot and arguably will
what's
not.
the difference?
So the difference I would say is they probably want to keep in place a lot of different programs. Like they would be opposed in general to, say, Medicare for all or a minimum wage. But I could still compromise with them on, say, a public option or marginal raises to that minimum wage. There is no compromise, and there is no.
You could just let me host, right?
A party that wants the Republic of Gilead from The Handmaid's Tale, and is actively pursuing it at every opportunity. So
right, but what you just said, so assuming you
there are a
view
couple.
Medicare for all as a super important thing to get like, from your perspective, right? And Democrats disagree with you, therefore they're causing harm if via the way you look at the world, right?
Yeah,
what
sure.
makes that different? If they're causing harm and Republicans are, is it just a matter of degree that Republicans are causing more harm?
Yes. Oh, I would argue
you guys want the Puffco?
It's absolutely a matter of degree, but it's also a matter of like where I can get them to care about the degree of harm they're causing. So with Democrats, I think there's a better argument you can make for lessening the amount of harm you can make. I don't know.
Oh
if those
God, have you heard my music? I sound horrible. Well, I was drunk through all the recordings, so.
Your average Republican, because to some of them it might be the point of why they support the policies they do. So if you talk about like trans issues, for example, and I don't know if we want to get into that here, but for a lot of them, it's just we want to fuck over trans people because we don't think they really exist and they're trying to take advantage of the system, yada yada, which is in itself, yes, a very ignorant view, but one that does have some amount of cruelty towards those trans people, right? So
I think one thing that's very interesting, I think that we're like associating ideas with like cruelty instead of like being actions, right? Like if someone is like, in my opinion, if someone like doesn't like trans people, if they never like cause an action, belief, I don't think that's like cruel, right? You can have like cruel thoughts, but those don't like always associate with being like cruel.
Your vote and support is an action, though. Your vote for those policies is an action, and it does have real consequences.
Like again, if someone voted. If someone voted for Trump after the child separation policy, they would have to actively say, I am okay with this child separation policy because of X reason, or I am okay with this child separation policy because I like the child separation policy. So they would either have to put it to the side for a reason that they cared more about, or they would have to say that they cared about that reason very much.
Also, like I kind of want to like preface. I feel like we just got through this conversation and now we're getting Panda Turtle in chat, like sending us back all the way to the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah. So I want to let Dan in and then Kobe.
Yeah. Well, and I think, in my opinion, much of these people who are conservatives would probably implement their means of their goals through like ends justify the means. Like it doesn't matter if it's cruel or whatnot. It's or whatever matters. The matters is the end goal. Do you think that's like understanding for everyone?
Hello.
Yeah, like tough love, basically.
I don't know who the guy with the chin camera is.
You could absolutely call forms of tough love cruel, though. Like some of it is fine, but like if you're sending gays to conversion camps, someone may see that as tough love, but I would still call that cruel.
Like, if you believe that it's better to be straight than gay, then sending them to that camp would make a lot of utilitarian sense, but it would still be a cruel action.
See, I would disagree.
And it doesn't work.
With that statement, only because when you got, I don't know if I took someone's spot.
No, you can go ahead, Panda Turtle.
Well, I feel like when you guys were talking about like the definitions, like
Panda Turtle,
where it was like getting satisfaction from it. Like, I'm not saying that I like dislike gay people, but like, if someone dislikes gay people, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting like satisfaction from like doing that action, right?
Callous indifference as well. It's too separate.
Well, when I say that, I think that you think you're making the world a better place somehow. So in trying to make the world less gay, you force people into conversion therapy camps. You get a sense of satisfaction out of being able to say, hey, I've managed to make these 5 people not gay, quote unquote, but we're going to just ignore the several thousand who killed themselves in the middle of this.
And also, I'm going to ask, because I'm just curious, because you didn't like elaborate enough, Pantrol, would you, this changes the conversation entirely, do you support conversion camps? Just let me know.
I do not, but
okay,
I don't think that, I think that's a very dangerous place to go. Like, if someone gets satisfaction from it and they think that they're in the right, I don't think that's like enough to say that that's just cruel, right? Because people do a lot of things that give them satisfaction.
Okay.
Sure. No, I think that's entirely correct to point out. I would just say that my definition of cruel would be rather broad and would probably make a couple of people in this chat chafe for the purposes of this discussion. So I would define lefties who make guillotine memes to be cruel in a certain way. Or I would say that Democrats who find the death of Rush Limbaugh to COVID cruel in a certain way, I would just say that those kinds of people are, those kinds of people are just different variations of cruel. And some kinds of cruelty I'm okay with in that regard.
Then I am definitely cruel.
Look at my down.
Rush Limbaugh.
Look at my down.
Right.
Fuck yeah.
Rush Limbaugh.
Hopefully, rest in peace.
I said piss. Guilty memes are hilarious. All right, let's go to Cook.
So, in my opinion, I think I hear the Dark Souls boss music. If we're going to talk about what is or isn't cruel, it's just going to keep going around in a circle because different people have different things they value. Right? Obviously, someone who supports conversion therapy doesn't think it's cruel. Obviously, somebody who thinks that if somebody thinks that transgender people are mentally ill, then they think that giving kids hormones is bad, and that's cruel, right? The much more interesting question is, why is it that we have different geographic areas of people seemingly have in different communities, seemingly have different takes on this? Why is it that some people believe that it is that's more important to have a high people, while some people think it's more important to keep the for the refugee problem or whatever? The answer, in my opinion, is I don't really think it's because some people are good, some people are evil, because some people are cruel, and some people lack empathy. I think the actual reason is because of like your community. The truth of it is, I would like to imagine that I'm just like a wonderful little ration. The screen is changing. So many people are being pushed in and pulled out. The squares are changing. Sorry, I got distracted. But anyways, I would like to assume that I'm like a little logic bot. The truth of it is, like I grew up in a very liberal community. It's very unsurprising that I came out as a relatively liberal person, right? People that grow up in conservative communities, it's relatively likely that they're going to pick up the conservative values that they grow up in. I think that it's a lot more interesting.
I grew up in an extremely conservative community, and I am anything but.
Not being a productive conversation. Right? If you grow up in a community that tells you that X action is not cool, and then somebody comes in and says, "Well, I disagree," there's not a lot you can go from there. You kind of just have to kind of break bread. What's more interesting, I would say, is like how do you is like kind of talking about like how do you take somebody that is in a community that is reinforcing X, Y, or Z value and begin to move them over? And we have one of my favorite conservatives, CTV. So maybe you can help eliminate.
CTV. Amazing.
Yeah.
The legend.
Wait. Okay. Really quick, I want to just like preface a thing because like we're associating cool with bad here. I can think an action is.
Hold on, Prime.
Fuck you. I'm
Prime,
talking.
hold on.
You dig it.
Yeah, but I got to ask Prime a question. Hey,
Oh,
do you mind bringing Fabian Liberty in here with me? I appreciate that.
If that's the case, I gotta move. Yeah, I have to move one person out here.
All right, listen. You know what? I am too starstruck to be able to handle this conversation. All right, CTV, I love you. All right, you are an amazing person here.
My hands are up. I did not remove them. I am a good boy. I'm a good boy. I did not do anything.
Okay.
All of y'all have a good night. I love all of you.
No
I have
shades
work
tonight.
in 5 hours. All right, everyone have a good night.
Okay.
Okay. Really quick, I was like talking. So like before CTV just like came in here all of a sudden, I was talking about how something can be cool. Yeah. I know you can think that. Cool. What I was talking about was shut the fuck up. What I was currently talking about is something can be cruel while still not being bad. So like, I can think an action can be cruel, absolutely. Like for example, killing a mass shooter. I can think that you can consider that cruel. It's causing pain and
What does cruel mean?
Yeah, I don't think that's cruel at all.
Like in my opinion,
cruel at all. It's called justice.
Evil
Yeah.
or like cruel and bad or like literally it's very close thing.
Yeah, no, an action can still be cruel because it's causing harm to others.
Hold on.
And being indifferent to it. It's like not.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. Give me
That doesn't make it uncruel.
They're not indifferent to it though. Somebody who kills a mass shooter is not indifferent to it. They don't want to do it. There's a weight to them. They're not happy that they shot that person. They live with that and they don't value that. They're not relishing in it. That's a horrible example.
Okay,
just to ask, what's an example in like everyday American life of what you would say is necessarily cruel act that we have to engage in?
Okay, y'all just like discounted mine. Y'all are going with like the pleasure definition. If you like read it, it's callous indifference. If you
Wait
like,
a minute. Hold on.
No.
Hold on. Let me ask you. I want to give you the most relevant example.
Can I speak?
Yeah, let's send finish. You can go. Send and then CTV.
Okay, so like what we were talking about here is it's callous indifference or pleasure for using the first reference. I would say there's nothing more like indifferent, like you're trying to save people, but it's at the cost of causing harm to another. I'm fine with calling that action cruel, but it's still a justified action. They're not linked. No one in this definition says it is morally bad to be cruel. They're often linked, but it's not like directly linked.
If it's
just
not
to let
morally
you know.
wrong to be cruel, then what are we even talking
Exactly.
about? Who
Just to
gives a
let you
shit?
know, for what I got from watching, and I think what almost everybody else in this call would agree, we are talking about like actions we shouldn't take when we say something is cruel. We call like separating a mother from ripping a child from her arms. That's something we should probably. It's a no-no. Okay. Like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
CTV.
Most relevant example. Have you seen the movie Old Yeller?
No.
I'm about to assume there's multiple versions.
Actually, that is a good example.
I've seen some old.
That is a good example.
Yeah, that is a great example. I said
It's a perfect example.
I know you did. I just heard you say it, right? So that's a great fucking example. Is it cruel to put down Old Yeller, or are you doing Old Yeller a fucking like real fucking service by putting him out of his misery?
Is Old Yeller just old, or is Old Yeller like hurt?
Old Yeller.
He's violent.
No, Kobe. I can't believe you haven't fucking seen Old
JK.
Yeller.
Yeah,
I
Are you
haven't seen it.
shitting
I'm
me?
guessing.
Are you shitting me? How have you not seen Old Yeller? Like, if you haven't seen Old fucking Yeller, you need to go see Old Yeller fucking now.
I've seen
right
Marley
fucking
and
now.
Me,
Right?
which is like an
Prime,
equivalent
Prime,
movie.
Let me go.
So.
Prime, I got this.
No
Prime.
spoilers. No spoilers.
Z cannot expect him to have watched Old Yeller.
No, I fucking expect him to go watch Old Yeller like time fucking yesterday. If you haven't seen Old Yeller,
I will look up the ending.
Look, I just don't want to give away the fucking ending here, right? But in reality, because I'm here in the Twitch politics community, I'm ready to destroy every single one of these Zoomers' fucking outlooks on life. Old Yeller caught rabies, defending the family. Oh yeah, but he caught rabies.
I'm telling you,
and he turned
sometimes
on
CTV is right.
Travis because of the rabies. Now, was the right thing to do to put Old Yeller down because he couldn't control his actions anymore and he turned on the very family that he fucking defended? Or was the right thing to do to help the Old Yeller get on up to doggy heaven? Which one was it?
I would say that by definition, animal cruelty is doing violence or cruel, harm to an animal without a justified cause. If the animal is an old dog that has rabies and is going to be a threat to itself and others, going to die a miserable death, probably going to hurt other people, then yes, I would say that is actually an act of kindness to kill the animal and to send it up to doggy heaven.
I love how the panel's quiet now.
So what you're saying is that you're leaving the door open, right? In your definition, that it's no longer about just about consequentialist harm to the individual, but instead to the family or to the society or to the culture, and that so long as there's a justifiable reason for what you believe is an action, it is no longer cruelty. And so if that justifiable reason comes down to a certain level of subjectivity, by your own definition, you have to understand that the entire idea of right-wing cruelty might be because they believe that there is some form of justifiable reason for the actions that they're taking. You actually undermined your own argument by defending putting down Old Yeller.
I actually don't. I was actually on the other side of the right-wing cruelty, but some of the other people can take it off.
Well, fair enough. I just hopped in, but I'm just throwing that out there.
I have a spicy question that might expose some cognitive dissonance for all the lefties in chat. Is Islam cruel?
Ooh, all religion is cruel, but I would not say that Islam is like uniquely cruel.
Yeah, all religion.
The fuck is Islam not uniquely cruel? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, like, I would say that it's that like a interpretation of religion that just looks at like the sacred texts and then just being like, okay, like, then judging it off of that is like a very narrow-minded, right? Like even Islam, a lot of what Islamic leaders did, like the first Islamic caliphate, immediately broke with Muhammad and created the whole idea of hadith, so they could be like, well, I talked to a guy who talked to the prophet, who saw in a dream the prophet, and so that's why I'm allowed to have 5 wives or whatever, right?
Well,
so
you
like,
don't even need to look at the hadith. You can just look at the Quran.
Sure,
and the
but the point I'm making is like when we're trying to find out, we should look at like the actual actions of the groups that have used this religion. Is it true that many Islamic societies have been very violent and are violent? Yes, but I mean, I really don't think that we can look statistically and see that like the Umayyad Caliphate was committing more war crimes per capita than the Crusaders or whatever.
Yeah, you know that a majority of all castles in Europe were built to defend against the Muslims, right?
Okay.
So,
wait, hold on. Wait. Stop. Aren't 100% of castles built to defend against somebody?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's not as simple as saying like.
Hold on. I'm looking.
That's like saying. Hold on.
No. Kobe, I want you.
Just very briefly. If I'm remembering my geography correctly, there's like 3 places you can really invade Europe from. You got the Slavs, a migrate people up in the north, and let's be honest, we were like fighting with sticks and stones for a while there. Okay, you have the south, you have through Anatolia coming up, so it's going to be Arab, Middle Eastern peoples, and then of course you have like through Russia, which is where like the Hans come. So there's like 3 places that you can invade Europe. I'm unsurprising that one of the places in which it's easiest to invade Europe from, there's the most castles, and therefore the most. I don't know. That seems to make sense. I don't think that that's an indicator of Muslims being more violent. I'd be unsurprised if there were not a lot of castles in Syria that were created to defend against Crusaders.
It's not an argument. It's not an argument about like. It's an argument about the idea of just understanding the sheer number of individuals in the chat or individuals here and thinking about how many castles they know of, right? Like it shows that like obviously it's not like they were just sticking to themselves, right?
Wait a minute.
All religions are violent. All religions are violent.
No. How is this? How is this at all an indication of an special amount of cruelty among Islam? How is the number of castles and that they came into conflict with another culture evidence of cruelty? Explain that to me.
Prime, give me some water, please.
Yeah, right. Your voice sounds rough, man.
Well, he's been talking.
Throat coat tea. That stuff will work wonders.
Hold on. I am fucking sick, obviously. So, moving on.
Right.
Back to the question. Explain to me, why is this a problem?
So I'm not arguing against the cruelty. I was arguing against the idea of like the caliphate, the presupposition of the caliphate being somehow like not in comparison to the Crusades, right? And I'm saying like, hey, look, obviously the caliphate was doing a lot of shit if the majority of the castles were built to defend against them.
Yeah, because
it's
he did warfare. And we
right. I'm
anyway,
not saying anybody's
but
specifically
so
bad or
Islam,
good in this situation.
So why is
I'm not
Islam,
making an.
Okay, so you're not making the argument that Islam is crueler than any other religion, right?
And not in that specific context. No.
Okay,
not in that specific argument. No.
Okay. So, in what argument is Islam crueler?
Well, I mean, if
you guys are getting cray in the chat, man. What are you guys doing in
He
here?
said that he doesn't care about what is in the religious text. He only cares about the actions of the individuals that are adherents to the religion, right? And so, I mean, it depends on whether or not you take cruelty to be, like a statistic, right? Or whether or not you take it from like a narrative or personal experience, right? And I would say some of the worst fucking modern atrocities that have been committed against individuals, some of the worst human rights violations have been committed by individuals that are adherents of the Islamic faith.
No, I don't see what this has to do with the conversation.
Like stoning people to death, or throwing people off a building, or selling children into sex slavery, right?
No one can argue those that are
or a Holocaust. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm annoyed.
Was that Muslims? A Holocaust.
No, but it was Muslims that actually defeated Constantinople, right? They developed this big fucking cannon.
600 years
ago. No.
And I mean this.
It was a European.
I watched
It was
a fucking documentary about it.
Two
Right?
Portuguese brothers.
You guys are
It was a whole big
dirty
cannon.
birdies.
I mean, this motherfucker, this cannon, literally weighed 40,000 pounds. 40,000 pounds of this cannon that they fucking developed, and they hauled it in by fucking horse and wagon, and it was built in two fucking pieces. One piece to hold this fucking like truck-sized fucking cannonball, right? And the other part fucking gunpowder in order to break down the fucking walls of Constantinople, right? So the Muslims did do that.
No
right?
one. Yeah.
Okay. What does that have to do with the conversation at all? I'm sorry. I'm just curious.
It has everything to do with the conversation, considering that we're talking about Muslim conquest. You fucking not listening to the conversation.
It has nothing to do with what the question is. Like that's not.
That's why I love somebody asked to try. Somebody, I can't remember what somebody asked to try to expose, to kind of like expose differences in an opinion. If we would agree with the statement, Islam is cruel. Or something like that. I agreed. I said, I believe my preference. I said, I agree. Islam is cruel, but I would say it's cruel like any of the other major world religions that have been the state religion of massive fucking empires. That's the actual reason. I just want to say, in modern age, really, it's nation states are the ones that are responsible for these massive fucking killings. Okay, the most amount of people that are executed per year are in fucking China by a government that does it for nationalistic fucking reasons, right? Like
no, that today. But the reality is that we're talking about like history, right?
When
you start talking about
modern day.
No. You don't get to just like negate Fabian's entire fucking argument. The reality here is that we're talking about history over time, which I've heard a few of you mention Crusades in there, which fair enough, right? Crusades, right? So from there, right, like if we're talking about Muslim conquest, the Muslims did in fact conquer Constantinople, and this is one of those things where like you have to put these things into historical context to understand it. Like the difference between
the question is, are Republicans cruel? What does this have to do with whether or not Republicans are cruel? What on earth does this have to do with whether or not Republicans are cruel?
We can just all agree everyone before 1700 was cruel.
Right.
Join the chat. Everything went wild.
Hold on. The difference between Christians setting up and establishing the nation state is inherently different than what has been happening over history with regard to Muslim and Islam religion, right? Like it's inherently different than what has been established. A lot of the reasons why we have nation states has a lot to do with Christianity. Does it not?
No, I disagree.
How does it not?
Hold on. I would argue that like what was described in the modern phenomenon of a nation state is something that we can find we can find like spontaneously coming up in multiple different places. I think that when the conquistadors got to Mesoamerica, the different Aztec Triple Alliance was pretty similar to three nations that came together. They had their own laws and own rulers. Going back, I would argue that the caliphates, especially later on the Ottoman Empire, we have found nation states that come out of the Islamic world. I don't think it's a Christian thing.
Okay. We are off the rails. I don't care about any of this. This is dumb.
The real question.
Yeah, we're moving back to where we were before. This is stupid. We're done.
I don't even know where we're at.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't. We're talking about
I came in randomly.
You've been talking about Constantinople.
My point exactly.
I know.
You don't know. You don't know. Of course you don't know.
You have no frame of reference here, Donnie.
The only thing that I heard, right, is that Prime decided that he was going to call conservatives all pussies, right? And then now I'm here, right? Okay. So no, I don't have any fucking context as to what's being talked about. All I know, right, is that some motherfucker decided to call conservatives pussies, and then I decided to show up. That's all the fuck I know, right?
Here, boys, let's go.
Okay, also I want to say CTV is actually absolutely the representative of all conservatism. Absolutely. Fuck yeah, if we can work with that, I love it.
I love it.
Perfect lightning rod. Perfect lightning rod.
I am going to move someone out because I'm going to move someone in. Okay, someone moves out. It's not personal.
I'll volunteer. I'll volunteer.
Okay.
I'm not in the conversation too much. Bye, yo.
All right.
Have a good night, man. Mine is also.
Good. Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks for being here, Spooky. Appreciate you being around. Okay. So we're talking about Republican cruelty. If the policies that Republicans support are cruel, and if the point of basically the core of the Republican Party is to cause cruelty against those you don't like. Was it Panda or someone? Kobe? Kobe, you're typing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. We're talking about whether these things are actually cruel. And you can call the Republican Party a cruel organization for all the for all the policies it continuously supports. And then the voters under that, are they cruel for supporting candidates who are making these cruel legislation? Okay, Dr. Ed Poe.
Yeah, my point, I brought up the Islam thing. What I was trying to drill down on is I think your problem with Republicans is you see them as like backward and regressive to some extent. What I wanted to point out is compared to the rest of the world right now, like there's a lot of way more regressive.
You slept for 16 hours? That sounds awesome. I wish I could sleep for 16 hours.
Byvoicey.network. Women and homosexuals and all this stuff.
What the heck was that?
It's interesting. I think leftists jump through hoops to defend people in more primitive cultures, like who have more regressive mindsets than Republicans. But Republicans are the easy targets, and we like really focus on them really hard. I just wanted to point out like some cognitive dissonance in regards to how we speak about other places and their regressive mindsets, and the Republicans who are like a little bit conservative, like trying to slow down progressive drive. What do you have to say about that, Prime?
I absolutely disagree.
That's a horrible false equivalency.
What aboutism that you're doing, right? Like who cares what those other cultures are doing right now? We're talking about Republicans, what they're doing here, and them slightly trying to slow things down. Taking the right of women to control their own bodies is not something that is just a little thing to slow down progressives, right?
I mean, that's subjective.
The cruelty.
I'm pro-choice.
Hold on. Shut the fuck up. Don't talk over me. Also, the cruelty that we've seen against the people at the border, at the southern border, right? That is not just like a little thing to slow down progressives. That's not a thing.
Right? Can I disagree?
You please talk over me. I'll get the point out and then you can respond. I promise. Okay. The policies that have been pushed, and to be fair, Democrats have done this too. The racist policies that push white supremacy, right? That limit the people's right to vote, that limit people's economic opportunities, the way the poor are treated in this country, the way that we refuse to give people basic services that are necessary for them to engage in society and to be happy and healthy. All that is all cruel. And these aren't like slight things to slow progressives down. These are things that have real world effects to people's lives. So fuck that. These are tiny things. But Dr. Red Pill.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Just to drill in the border policy thing, we are trying, I think, Republicans, when Donald Trump had the presidency, they were trying, I mean, to say they were callous and They had to devote a lot of money to get the flood of people. Just look, I know it is whataboutism, but comparatively to other parts of the world, to the Taliban right now in Afghanistan, look, I don't begrudge you for trying to tackle these problems. My thing is, like, there are cruel parts of the world, and you're labeling Republicans cruel when we have like the Taliban being an organization like doing really cruel things.
So I think a lot of morality does have to do with like the material wealth in an area, right? So we would expect people in third world countries to maybe be, you know, I mean, they're not as privileged as us. You know, when you're worried about getting food on the table, you can't think of higher things like, oh, you know, social justice and stuff. So I think that a big
I think
you don't
that's
think that?
Wait,
no. First of all, no. First of all, you're overestimating the poverty of the people who are in these other countries, right? And then you're like, well, these people don't have time to have upper level thoughts like we do, right?
No, it's not to have upper level thought.
No. This is what you're saying. That you're saying that they don't have time to worry about these social justice aspects, right? And so that, of course, they're going to be more cruel. I feel like this is, and I don't believe you're trying to do this, Pan. I'm not trying to put this on you, but there's like a hop, skip, and a jump away from a very racist argument, about what we should expect people in those parts of the world.
I also want to like jump in real quick is like about this whataboutism. I can dismiss all of this right now. I'm fine with calling the Taliban cruel, but that has nothing to do with conservative cruelty. Can we like get that out of the way? We can accept that others can simultaneously be cruel. We're talking about Republicans.
I'm becoming ever more triggered at the word cruel, but to kind of address, Coach or sorry, not Coach Red Pill, sorry, Dr. Red Pill's argument here. So like, I think that there's like to as best steelman I can the Republican position. I understand, I believe I believe it's like the San Diego crossing and the one one of the ones in Mexico, or sorry, in Texas, are like the biggest, most used border crossings in the world. I understand living in these states and wanting there to be security there. That's like a reasonable like want. The problem is that we're missing out the context of the Republican immigration plan specifically did things like try to push a migrant through the Sonoran Desert to make it more miserable, to make it more, I hate to use the term, cruel, so that they would be less incentivized to try to even get to the the border to do asylum. I think that is the argument I would make.
I am TYT.
Can I jump in really quick?
We'll go to Fabian. He's waiting. We'll go to Spooky. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually would make the point that Republicans are cruel, that the Republican politicians are cruel. But I think if you make the argument then that the Republican voters are cruel by extension, right? Because that's part of the question. Not saying anyone is necessarily making that argument. Then you also have to make the argument that all of the Democratic voters are cruel by virtue of the Republican Party's policies, not even by virtue of the Democratic Party policies. Because by voting for Democrats, you're voting a vote of confidence in the nation state and of the two-party system. And so if you are a Democrat voter, you're voting in the same exact system that the Republicans are voting, because most Republican voters don't actually agree with a lot of policies that you might define as cruel that are being done by Republican politicians. I mean, this is part of a representative constitutional republic as opposed to direct democracy, right? So, I mean, even things like that the left really agrees with that I don't agree with, but a majority of people agree with, single-payer healthcare, for example, right? A lot of Republicans believe in single-party healthcare, right? I'm sorry, it's late at night. Not single party healthcare, it's single payer healthcare, right? But they're voting for a Republican because they believe that some of the views, right? Maybe Christian evangelicalism, maybe they're pro-choice, maybe they want lower taxes because they think that's more effective, maybe they want reduced regulations on companies and corporations because they feel like it's burdensome to small businesses. Whatever their reasons are, when you're voting for a representative, you're not actually voting for policies. So if you make the argument that the Republican voters are cruel simply because they vote in people like Mitch McConnell, you have to make the argument
have no idea
that all Democrats are cruel for the virtue of voting Democrat, because they're both propping up this bullshit system of corporatism and corporate fascism and bullshit politicians fucking over the poor and the middle class so that their wealthy friends can get rich.
Real quick, can I just jump in on that? Because there's parts that I absolutely agree with, and there's parts that I don't.
Well, can I go?
Oh yeah, feel free. Then can I go after you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good.
So I don't really get the point that was just made. I mean, to say that participating in a system that has bad outcomes, what's the alternative? You can just not participate. The system will continue exactly the same, right? Like it's
Plenty of
unless you're calling
alternatives.
for.
There's plenty of alternatives.
I mean, it's like
You could vote. You could vote. You could vote
about,
third party. You could get involved on boots on the ground in local
That's a meme.
elections.
You could
You could protest
No, but
vote. You could engage in.
Wouldn't participating by voting for a third party, you're still participating in the same political system. Like, I don't know what the argument you're trying to make. Are you saying
That's
that?
not true.
So no,
Yes,
I
it
100%.
is. I mean,
sorry,
it would still be
If it's a
something
protest vote.
system, and unless you
No,
get
well-
enough people to make parties viable, right? Or the
It's clearly different because it's a protest vote because they're not viable, right?
But
So when
a
you know that
protest
the
vote is
individual.
not actually going to be a meaningful vote at all.
The only reason why you think it's not a meaningful vote is because you yourself are not willing to sign on to the ideology of it being a protest vote. That's the only thing holding you back from being able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, also, I want to say when I vote third party, I'm not voting it just to fucking throw it away. I want the group that I'm voting for to gain influence and do better in future elections. Obviously, they're not going to win.
Yeah.
Hit that 5%. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, maybe just enough to get on the campaign
stage, exactly.
And
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
there's constitutional conservatives have done local secessionist activities, such as like the Virginia sheriffs that refuse to enforce unconstitutional gun laws in their counties. Right? There are a lot of ways that you can engage and fight the system. Well, you don't agree with it, but it doesn't mean that it isn't some form of dual power.
So, Spooky, finish your point if you have a point to finish, and then
so this isn't even the crux of my point. I think that's valid.
Sorry, hold on. Spooky, then Sen, and then Dan.
So, like, I'm not saying that it's a worthless thing to do to vote third party, but like when we look at political reality versus, ideally, like, yeah, of course it would be great. I would fully support a multi-party system. That's not the reality of the situation right now. And I'm not trying to take away from the value of anyone's vote who does vote for the party. It's kind of contradictory to what I said earlier. And you're right, I shouldn't have said that. But
your mic's cutting out.
To say that what you should do instead of participating in a political system is, as an individual that doesn't have any, sole ability to change the system entirely, right? Like I would say if you're someone that's going out there and you're trying to, get people on your on your side in terms of other people will also vote third party, for sure. But like to say that as an individual, like isolated of any other extenuating factors, it's kind of like the same argument that people make of like, oh, you're a socialist or something. Why do you use? Why do you?
Sorry, you're cutting out. You are cutting out at the end. So
do something
with your mic. Okay. Yeah.
But
okay. Repeat your last sentence. Hold on. Repeat your last sentence. We didn't hear it. And then Sen, and then Dan.
Yeah. So I was just saying, it's kind of like the same argument that's made about like people that would say, oh, you claim to be a socialist, to someone that's maybe advocating for some sort of socialist like structure, right? And saying, well, if you're a socialist, why do you currently use an iPhone? Something that's generated by a capitalist system. It's kind of like you don't have a choice, really. I don't think. But also,
Just read Emma Golding. Just read Emma Golding.
Okay, sure. But like, just one more point, and I'll make it quick. With the whole thing about like, I'm assuming that
your mic is just really cutting out really hard.
Okay, sorry, hold on. I guess go to someone else, and I'll figure it out.
Okay.
There's like parts that I'll absolutely agree with. I can absolutely agree that the Democratic Party can be cruel. Absolutely. When I voted for Biden, which I did begrudgingly, I said that after I left, I specifically thought that I just voted for a war criminal. He voted for the Iraq War. I would consider him a war criminal.
I felt the same way. I didn't really want to vote for him at all. I hated voting for him.
To reduce harm reduction.
Right. Yep.
I would say if you want to call that cruel, like you can actually get into that. But I would say that harm reduction is a justified reason to vote for these people. So
yeah.
Other like things that we've kind of like addressed, I guess. We got like I'm very confused by this conversation. I guess I'll just let people respond to that, and I'm curious.
Well, I think what Fabian's is it Fabian or Fabian?
Fabian. It's from I stole it from the Fabian Society because I believe in incrementalism.
Okay. Well, I think what Fabian's point is that if we can say, oh, well, the Democrats are just doing harm reductions, then we have to be allowed to use that excuse for the Republicans too, because if the Republicans view that as the lesser of two evils, then they're not guilty for all of the horrible ideas that the Republican Party has, because from their point of view, they don't support those. They just support the harm reduction, just like how you voted for Biden to support harm reduction.
Yeah, the
from their
problem
point of view,
is
they got
that
that too.
Yeah, and if they want to call me cruel, I can take it, but I can say that they're wrong, and I believe that they're wrong, and I'll argue that they're wrong. So,
but that's the problem with this whole argument is then we just have two people
Wait a
being
minute.
like,
okay,
well,
so tell me how
I
the,
disagree,
the
good sir. I
Afghanistan
disagree, good
withdrawal
sir.
is like fucking harm reduction. Tell me that.
oh yeah, like it depends on I'm not happy with how Biden did the harm reduction, how he left. That's like an entirely he
Okay,
like
as
failed
long as
me
we're
on a
not
lot of
trying to
things.
defend that.
Okay, son, finish your point.
I just quickly address that. I think there are aspects that Biden did that are absolutely not good in how he left. But at the same time, Trump said he was left, never did it. Biden worked up the balls and actually did it. At least he can do what he has. Trump said that he was going to leave Afghanistan.
Don't defend this.
No,
it's
absolutely something that I can
losing
say.
argument. It's not. It's a losing argument. Just back
hold on.
away.
This is Trump's pullout. This is Trump's pullout. That Biden is he's G the engineer. He's just letting the flood waters come, and he's saying.
If that was true, it would have happened at the end of May, would it not?
Exactly.
I believe what he is. He pushed it back. The pullout was decided under the whole thing. The Doha agreements. That was it was in 2020, September 2020. Doha agreement.
Look, the whole idea of a pullout is for you to not leave anything behind, right?
Okay.
Are there things left behind right now?
No, stop.
Then you didn't pull out properly.
Stop. Oh boy. All right,
Look,
we're moving on. Dan,
real quick.
I didn't even get to finish my point.
You want to hear this?
I don't care.
You want
I don't care.
to hear this?
Shut up.
You
Dan.
want to hear it?
Oh boy, did somebody lose their shit? What happened, guys? What did I miss?
It's not gonna have relevancy later.
I don't care.
Yeah, his young daughter did die.
It's short. It's short.
What
It's
the
short, bro.
What the fuck do you want?
Look, the reality.
Shut up. CTV, what do you want?
Look, the reality here is, right, is it's the same philosophy when it comes to a pull-out couch, right?
Okay.
A pull-out
Well,
couch.
okay,
It's a pull-out couch, right? Like, if you get pregnant on a pull-out couch, right, you didn't follow the directions, okay?
I have no idea
Made your
what
ass
you're talking
laugh.
about.
Dan,
let's get to the let's get to the main point of what should everyone? Yes, for sure. Well, everyone is for harm reduction to the point. But we're talking about the benefit of people for and to improve people's lives. For sure, that's why I say I agree with more of the left cause. But even though I'm not adjacent to those who are socialists or even further left-wing ideologies, I at least for the benefit of getting our average person better rights and along with support systems to help improve, I think to that is less cruelty to the right, who just wants to at least some of them want to take away a lot of rights, like what happened with Texas. It's like you're forcing now these women in Texas now they have to go across to New Mexico in order to get what needs to be done for the sake of their own lives and their own positions in their family.
Okay, so hopefully brief interruption. You can put your hand down. Brief interruption. This is the part of the show where we pay for all this, right? Where we do that. So help out the channel. Now's the time, right? Sub to the channel. Sub to the channel. That's how
guys, right now, go ahead and help Prime out. If you haven't already subbed to Prime's channel,
it is September. It is the first.
Sub, follow, help him out. We're not there yet, but he's hosted all this stuff for us from the very beginning, and he's been very gracious. Dealt with me my first time out, Prime Wine Drunk, and he let me go, man. He's awesome.
Right. So now.
So anybody that hasn't, please do.
Help support the channel. Right. So sub to the channel if you're not currently subbed. Gift bits if you haven't done that, or gift subs. Thank you. Taking L's for being so kind.
Just to be clear, I want to help Prime out because I know he's sick, right? So just to be clear, that channel that he's talking about is www.twitch.tv/critically thinking veteran. Okay.
Right. Thank you, Taking L's, for that.
Support Prime.
Thank you, Taking L's, for that sub. And we get 2 more individual donors. 2 more individual donors. We can start ourselves a hype train, and that is how we usually pay for all this. Okay. It's the start of a new month. And the leaderboards are empty. If you want to get to the top of the leaderboards, now's the time. May not be able to do so later, but now's the time. Okay. So
I think his mom's
I can take
dead.
over if you want, if due to the voice issue.
Oh, I got it. Thank you. I do appreciate that. But we are definitely doing this. Captain A. Jones with the sub, right? Thank you for that. One more. And we
Give
can
him
start
your money.
Sorry.
No, I was just telling Chad to give us your money because you're providing all this content for free.
Absolutely. That's what we do. Okay. Yeah. So help us out.
How many devs do I owe, guys?
We start ourselves a hype train. That is how we pay for all this. That is how we keep this alive. Redolent Thought is so kind to help us out with that. We are now in a hype train. Okay.
Oh, I'm still on 10.
Thank you so much for that level of support. We're a level 1 hype train. 4.5 minutes left on the clock. Can we get to level 2 hype train? As always, we are here. We're 50% done. 50% left. Can we get to level 2 hype train? As always, we are here. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. I oftentimes feel bad, but I turn the camera in which way. And we are here for that content. So if you support what we're doing, right? If you appreciate these conversations that we have, gathering these individuals, support the channel, sub to the channel, right? $5, less than that right now because it is September. $5 if you have a brand new sub, and 20% off if you're a brand new sub, and 20% off if you're gifted. I'm gonna have to come up with a command for that. All right, so sub to the channel. I haven't done so yet. Or resub if you have a resub, it's ready to pop. Use that resub now. That's how we keep this alive. Or continue a sub if you've been gifted a sub from the kind individuals who generally help us out. Then do so right now. Be so kind as to continue that sub.
Yeah.
Thank you, Problematic Pan, for putting his money where his mouth is. Right. Let's continue paying for a gift sub that I got from an anonymous gifter. Thank you, anonymous person, for being so kind. For doing that. And Problematic Pan, this is your first sub to the channel. Very much appreciate that. We got to celebrate those subs. Source. Thank you. All right. 67% done. 33% left. Can we get to a level 2 hype train? Almost there. Right? Level 2 hype train. So
I'm hopping over and throwing him some bits real quick.
Oh, and put some Prime Bakery emotes. People are being so kind to support. Also, of course, we gift bits. I guess Brick 2 is helping us out with 15 bits. I'll take it. Maybe a little bit more than that, Brick 2. But I'll take it. Thank you so much. Yeah, but also gift subs. That helps out a lot. We'll have tomorrow, for instance, our all black everything. We'll have more of this after we're done. But tomorrow we'll have our all black everything, which is my favorite panel. Where we talk about, you should be able to figure out that yourself. I shouldn't have to tell you. But it's a lot of fun. And the discourse is amazing. And the people who gather there are really the best individuals.
Yeah, but you don't allow like half black people to come into those things.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
No. Why is it then? Why is it? Hold on. Then why is it that myself and Destiny have not been allowed onto this panel?
All right. Moving on. We are 90 seconds left on this hype train. Can we get to a level 2 hype train? All right. Help us out. Now's the time. Jump on in. Sub to the channel. Appreciate what we're doing here. Right. So yes, we'll have all black everything tomorrow. Thank you for 1,000 bits, Jason Society, for helping us out, being so kind. Support what we're doing here. Putting us at a level 2, exactly level 2, with 0% done. 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes of the clock. Thank you so much for that. That helps us out a ton. Okay. Oh, and then Leah helps us out even more with 9,000 bits to the channel. Thank you, Leah.
Damn, rock and roll.
9,000. So that
wait. You
that's
get
awesome.
a full 10,000? That just seems like a shortcoming to me. I don't know.
Yeah, come on, Leah.
I mean, you gotta do it for the memes. You gotta get over 9,000.
That just seems like a restriction. What the fuck is that?
We do not criticize
Oh,
the kindness.
I criticize it.
We do not criticize the kindness of the individuals who help us out. We thank you for anything you can share with this community. Thank you, SEAL Team Raz, for a sub as well. Thank you. Yes, put those Prime Breaker emos. Show them that we appreciate all of them, right? We are at level 4 hype train. Look, we're moving along. 4.5 minutes left on the clock. 3% done. 97% left. This really hurts. But we gotta pay for all this. Yeah, 4.5 minutes left. Can we get to a level 5 hype train? We're moving along. Thank you for the donations so far. This is how we pay for all of this. Okay.
You know what? You fucking lefties can't complete a level 5 hype train. I don't even know why the fuck you're bothering trying. Wow. Wow, I just had 10,000 fucking bits put in my fucking channel. Why is it the lefties can't seem to fucking do this, right? Because Race Car, thank you for the 10,000 fucking bits. We didn't even fucking bother with 9,000, right? Because we like round fucking numbers over here in the Wolf's Den. So what the fuck is going on over there?
Leah follows up that with Leah follows up with how many was that? 50 subs. 50 subs to the channel. Thank you, Leah, being so kind.
Yeah.
Being the person that we call her channel queen. We have completed the hype train.
Hell yeah.
Because of her kindness and the kindness of others who have helped out. Every single one of you.
That rocks.
So
good.
Yeah, thank you
so
every single one of
good.
you who helped out, big and small. We are the max hype train. But of course, you can still jump in. Get those,
That's good
level
love, you
5 hype
guys.
training
I
emotes.
love
Now's
throwing
the
love
time.
around
All the
like
hard
that.
work
That's
has been
how
done
it's supposed to be,
for you.
right?
So again, we thank the people that like Leah, scrolling down. Who else? I'm scrolling down past all of Leah's kind gift subs.
Wow.
Means a lot. Like SEAL Team Raz, I didn't see your name before. SEAL Team Raz, thank you for gifting that sub. Leah again for the 9,000 bits. Jason Society for the 1,000 bits. Problematic Pan, Redolent Thoughts, Captain A. Jones, Taken L's, H9H9, Monkey, Niner Socks. All of you helped out to keep this channel alive. And Johnson Extreme, I saw your $5 donation. Use our PayPal button. Thank you for using our PayPal button. Helps out a ton. Okay. So I rather than hold up the panel. Oh, wow. Okay. Also, after that, Leah follows up her 9,000 bit donation with 50 sub donation, and then follows that up with a 21,000 bit donation to the channel. So crushing all the rest.
Oh shit, that's massive.
30,000 bits.
Rock and roll. Holy shit.
99% level 5 hype train. I'm not sure if it goes any higher. Someone give something, because I'm not sure if a hype train goes any higher than 399%. Holy shit. Someone try to give me something, because I want to know if it goes higher than that. That's unbelievable. Thank you, Leah, for your endless kindness and generosity to this panel, to this community. Okay, so the last thing I got to do is what?
Dope shit. I'm happy for him. That's good shit.
What is this? Right? I feel like this is a competition at this point. I just had 10 gifted subs get dropped in my fucking panel, right? I'm at a level 5 and I just got fucking started. The fuck is this?
I don't know.
What is this? Hold on. Does that mean that there's more Republican and conservative support than there is lefty support? What the fuck is this? I thought Hassan just got a $3 million fucking mansion, right? And we can't even get like above 500%.
But you gotta remember, all the rich people love you. All the rich people love the righties. The rich people love the righties. What are you talking about? You give them the tax breaks. They love you so much.
Full of shit. All of the corruption is already on the fucking left. That's where all the money's at, right?
Right.
Let's argue from that point.
The other panelists, maybe give the panelists a bonus or something.
Oh boy. Anyway, thank you for all all that. One way or the other, I do appreciate the kindness and the generosity. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna thank our top 5 gifters, right, and then we'll get back to this content. But this is how we pay for this, and we thank everyone.
It's fucking great,
who's so
dude.
kind to help us out.
I love
This
this
is how
guy,
we keep
dude.
the channel
He's so
alive.
funny.
This is how we keep this content coming, and we do it every day. We do not skip a day. It doesn't fucking happen here, right? So Spooky, thank you for using your Prime sub just now. Thank you for that support. It means a lot. It means a ton. Okay. Thank you so much for investing in this community. All right.
Ned and Vila is like WWE for debate.
At the top of the leaderboards, you missed your opportunity if you want to be at the top because Leah has struck again, gifting 50 subs to the channel. Thank you, Leah. You are a channel queen and for very good reason. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Taking L's for 1 sub. Thank you, Captain HLs for 1 sub. Thank you, Red Alert Thought for 1 sub. Thank you, Problematic Panda.
I think
Thank you,
Biden could easily be misinterpreted. I don't think he's a creep. I think he's made some seriously bad policy decisions that I completely disagree with.
Leah at the top, number 1, 30,000 bits to the channel. Thank you, Leah. Our absolute positively channel queen, number 1 in our hearts. Jason Society with 1,000 bits. Taking L's with 98 bits and Burnt 2 with 15 bits. So if you want to get on leaderboards, now's the time. You can actually make it happen.
Fabian Liberty, you were just gifted a fucking tier 1 sub in my fucking chat, bro. You got your red ball now, right? Dude.
Yeah, I saw it. I thanked her.
Look, the reality here is that while the left put up a good fight, the conservatives fucking won this one. Take your fucking L, lefties, because that's how it fucking works.
What?
Okay.
I think both streamers are winners here, to be completely honest.
Don't let him bullshit you. He's only at
Citizenship.
393%. He needs to
thank
get
you.
that 6%. Let's go.
Thank you, Haxforce, for the 1,000 bits, putting them at on number 3 on the
It's
on the,
good to be in
leaderboard.
Arizona where you can smoke
And he says,
weed legally.
TV. I will
I'm
very
kicking
gladly
back
do that for
here,
10 minutes. Okay.
hitting some
So,
dabs,
Fabian,
debating, dab and
would love to,
debate.
you had something to say? So
Yeah,
please-
I have 2 questions for like everybody here. Like, and you can just do it by a show of hands, right? Who here is for single payer healthcare and would vote for it? Right? Keep your hand up if you also believe that trans people deserve to have hormone replacement therapy and gender reassignment surgery. Okay. All right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. What I want you to understand, right, is that when you vote for a Democrat that institutes single payer healthcare, right, and they get that, and then the trans people have access to healthcare paid for by the state, right? When the next Republican gets voted in and they say no more gender reassignment surgery and hormone replacement therapy, you voted for that. You voted to take away trans rights and trans health care. And that's what you voted for when you voted for a Democrat.
We also voted to give it to
The
him.
executive branch just can't come wipe out something that the
Congress. No. When a red wave comes by and they say, no, we're going to write a law that says that the taxpayers and the single payer healthcare isn't going to pay for that.
This is so dumb.
Well, so by
There's always going to be a regressive element in society. Okay, you
because you implemented either.
You voted to take away trans rights and trans healthcare.
But your argument is that if you participate in the political process, by then you are cruel. So then
my argument is that when you vote for a two-party system that ultimately fucks us all over, that you are part of the problem, and that voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for evil.
Wait, but how?
But But even if you vote for a third party, you're still participating in the system. Even if you vote for a third party, you're still participating in the system that you say you don't believe in.
No, you're doing a protest vote. You're voting for a protest vote to change.
It's still being a part of the system. You're still a part of it. You still have not disconnected from it. You are still functionally a cog in the wheel.
You put the Democrats in power, and you were the one that voted for the expansion of the power of the federal state. And it was that federal state power expansion that you voted for that was then used against you. You actively supported taking away trans healthcare and trans rights.
Hold on.
So just admit you are cruel and you don't care about trans rights.
Are you living your own reality for this?
No, I'm just using actual logic.
No, if
right?
you're saying that
is
like
not
whatever
logical.
happens is voted for just by virtue of voting, no matter what that thing is, then you can't say that even in the
That's not what I'm
first
saying.
part of the.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what you're saying.
No, you're saying if you
I'm
vote
saying
at
you
all,
voted,
that whatever
you voted to
happens
give the
politically,
state that power. You voted
Right,
for
but
either a
hold on.
Democrat or a Republican that is constantly expanding their own power and constantly expanding the
But-
purview of the federal state.
But
When
your
you voted
protest
for that,
vote
you
still
voted for
gives
those
one of them
cruelties and
control. Your protest
doesn't.
vote still contributes to giving one of them control.
No, it doesn't.
Can I?
Yes, it does.
He's
Yes, it
responding
does.
directly to me. Can I respond? Okay. I would disagree with that under the bars that I can also advocate for someone who would simultaneously try and change the two-party system. I agree that's something that we have as of right now, but it's something that I would like to see happen. So like no, and like I have a feeling that a lot of the policies that would institute, like I would like a lot of conservatives would like getting rid of the electoral college, getting rid of how gerrymandering functions, and making like voting day a national holiday. A lot of that would go to end Republican power. We can
Yep,
argue whether it's a good or
100.
a bad thing, but it would be
100.
advocating against
I
their
100%
power. So, like, they're
agree, guys.
opposing
100%
even in
agree.
your own argument, which I think is not correct.
So you're saying if you vote enough Democrats,
We
in
need
office
publicly
and you
funded
change
votes,
the
or,
Constitution to make it
shit.
less of a constitutional republic and more of direct representative democracy, that it will get rid of Republican
that
power,
doesn't make-
and the mono party will somehow be better.
No, I never said it would make it any less of a system, and I never advocated against it. I think.
I was talking
what did I
specifically
say?
electoral college.
I know, but what did I say? What about the electoral college is necessary for a republic? I never. No,
to
you
be
can
fair,
still.
It's part of what makes it a republican less so. It's one of the things that does.
Fine, then I would advocate for that. I guess, but
Yeah, no,
I
it's
would
okay.
disagree- I would disagree with the distinction that it would make it less of a republic as long as we're still voting representatives in to represent our voting rights. It wouldn't make it like more directly like direct democratic. It would still maintain the representative democracy.
Wait, I want to address his argument a little more heavily. Right? I don't think that this is a good one. Right? So, 2 points. Number one, if your only political goal was making America not a two-party state, you would have to support one of the parties that wanted to change that in order to change it. It's the only way, right? Number two, I actually don't really think. I think that like voting actually is pretty low on the list of like actions you can take to separate yourself from the functioning of larger society. Right? If you don't vote, or
Sweet damn.
the people that are going to be voting are people that are going to support the state either way. And if you vote for a third party, it's not going to do anything. So I don't.
I mean,
Well, I mean, a third party is wildly unlikely to win. Power anyway.
Continue on. I don't mean to derail it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But I don't know. Like, I don't really think it's a pretty low level perpetuation of the system. I kind of I'm imagining that like the meme I see sometimes on like right wing Twitter or on libertarian.
No, that was
like,
one.
memes where it says like become
It was just a big
ungovernable,
one.
and it's a guy with like a giant.
'Cause they just
like,
loaded
a
it.
bow that's like 5 times his size. That's I think like the actual way that you would fight against society. Is, like,
What was that?
like,
So
weird,
I'm
like,
at 7
primitivist
now?
Anarchist stuff of like blowing up power lines and stuff. In of course. Grand Theft Auto 6, which is in development still, so you can't even play it. So.
Or did I drop an F-bomb somewhere in there?
I mean, I would disagree, but okay.
Can I like? I would absolutely say voting to change the system, as it's not like an efficient thing anyone
8.
can actually do, is definitely if we could like actually get together a government that would like change the system and to be a different one, that
Okay.
would be way more effective than just waving pitchforks at police. That's incredibly devastating.
I'm gonna go buy chicken nuggets. Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, go get some chicken nuggies. Get some tendies while you're at it.
Okay.
So does anyone want to actually like discuss the idea that by voting your vote of confidence in the two-party system, that you are actually as much responsible as the Republicans are as the Democrats, or like growing the purview and power of
Just
the state?
because I give someone the power to do something and they do something bad doesn't mean that my choice is now the cruel or the wrong action.
So you give someone power and then you're no longer responsible for the consequences of that?
Well,
pragmatically, you're not having an effect, right? Like you're advocating for like teeny tiny baby steps, gradualism, like maybe in 100 or 200 years, like you're gonna move the needle far enough to have some kind of impact, but you're seeding that in the near term, like you're not going to have an impact. The way,
So
like,
I think what
Democrats would.
I think what Fabian is trying to say, like, let's take a real world example. I remember when Harry Reid got rid of the filibuster, right? And then later Mitch McConnell used the the fact that he got rid of the filibuster to push through a lot of Republican policy. I think what Fabian is saying is that the Democrats who voted to get rid of the filibuster are thus also partially responsible for the harm that came from that, at least from their point of view. So in the same light, what he's saying is, okay, well, if you vote to expand the power of government and this new power of government is used against you. Sorry,
This is
It's
dumb.
like a Pandora's box situation. You can't like know what's gonna happen in the box without opening the box.
It's not like you open the box and then you see Gwyneth Paltrow's head. It's a lot more. You can't really predict.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
You totally can predict that if you. Like, it was totally predictable that if the Democrats get rid of the filibuster, that the Republicans will use that to their advantage as well. That's completely predictable. I don't know.
To use their advantage, but I think that it's more about the policy the Republicans were able to pass during that, and no one could like guess or even like correctly guess what policies those would be.
Right, but if you don't agree with the Republicans and you vote Democrats in that expand the purview and power.
Just because I don't agree with a part of the system and I give the system more power, does it mean that I'm in the wrong?
You are in the wrong. You are the one that is giving the opposite opposing.
First of all, I believe in the system. I'm a neolib. I love the two-party system. I think it works.
So your argument is that Republicans are an essential part of the purview of the state, and that what they do is not cruel.
In the last 15 years, they went off the deep end. Hopefully, Liz Cheney will bring some of them back. Hopefully.
Oh my God, you did not.
Oh no.
No, wait, time out. I will never, for the federal position, vote for a Republican. But I could see myself voting for a Republican in a governor's race, a state senate race, a mayoral race.
Yeah, okay, but Liz Cheney.
I didn't know we had more senators.
Wait, time out. I said hopefully she can bring some of them back to normalcy. I didn't say like, oh, she's gonna make them good, or is she good? I didn't say that. I said
right, but she's like the worst of them.
Well, yeah, no, she's the worst.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong too.
She's definitely a war hawk.
In 2016, when after Trump gets in office, much of the people who were part of the old GOP.
See, guys, like this is what I'm talking about. I'm looking at you, CTV. I'm looking at you eye to eye, buddy.
If your argument is that Democrats,
you want to come and get some, you come and get some, buddy. I got you. I got you. I'll put my glasses back on. I'll put my glasses on too, man. What? You want me to look tough? I can put my glasses on too. All right. No, I see you.
Citizens that vote for the GOP
hold that fist.
Are not cruel,
you know,
because
apparently
hold we're not responsible for the actions
angry
of
with
the
mic
when we
does
vote
this
in
a lot
politicians.
like this.
That it's just the politicians.
You know what I'm saying?
That all of the Republicans in the country.
You know,
are now
and you just gotta look up at the camera and just talk like this a little bit.
The purview and growth of the power of the government.
I gotta mess with it, man.
Democrats, then you can't be mad at the Republican voters.
I like the
that
guy.
Voted for Republican officials.
I don't like his. I don't like his. Like his positions, but I think he's funny.
That's like reducing it to a situation where
he's entertaining.
I mean, like I would certainly not say that every voter, regardless of who they're voting for, is like personally responsible for what their representatives do, right?
That's one. That's one.
No, yeah, no, I agree with you totally on that point. However, to say that people that vote are like anytime there's something, you know, that they see happen that's bad by some metric or by some measure, right? Like that they didn't want that to happen. I mean, some of the people that vote for certain representatives do want the things that maybe we would consider like
only if I can mirror him exactly.
That's why they voted for them.
I have to set up my camera angle the same, only with my shit in the background.
To an uber simplistic view of how this works.
Can I ask like a
philosophical argument about
yes, the whole time.
It's the other individuals in the chat that are saying that they don't have responsibility for things Republicans do with power that they gave them. And so by that same very logic and argument, Republican voters are not responsible for the power that they gave the GOP politicians.
Can
you
I
need
ask
to be
you to
logically
elaborate on
consistent.
That would be pretty good.
Can I ask you to elaborate on that a little bit?
Do a green screen of his background.
What? What do you want me to
let me
elaborate on?
apply this to an actual policy. So
Go
let's say
Hi, Bloodluster.
When the Supreme Court did Roe v. Wade, right? That technically expanded
Hi,
the
Gal
government
Cutie. Celia,
making it illegal to ban abortions. Are you
thanks
saying
for
that the
hanging
people
out.
that wanted Roe v. Wade to be made are also responsible because we gave the state the ability to remove Roe v. Wade?
Well, I mean, I think you're misunderstanding Roe v. Wade a little bit. It enshrined the right to privacy, and then that was expanded towards the idea of
well, let's apply it specifically to abortion then, I guess. Do you think
Okay.
making it impossible to ban abortions, or like constitutionally not okay to ban abortions, does that then mean that we are held responsible when conservatives come along and then ban abortions?
You're talking about common law expanding rights, and then trying to switch that over to policy prescriptions and the purview and power of the state.
Well, like,
the two are not the same thing. Like you can't,
Well,
they're not connected. That's
then
not
can you-
how. It's not how common law and expansion of rights works.
This
No,
is.
for the sake of argument,
I don't mind the idea of him wanting a third party and like really believing in that. I think that's great. As a matter of fact, I love third parties. They're just so completely freaking disorganized, and they all have their heads up so far up their asses. I can't even stand it.
The fucking state, right? So I mean, like, I have no problem.
Oh, he's an anarchist. He's an idiot.
Voting in Republicans to increase the power of the state, and then the Democrats using it against them, right? The argument works both ways. I'm logically consistent here.
You're as crazy as Dr. K.
Well, I mean, pejoratives aside, like, do you have something you want to say against the argument, or are you just proving that, like, you're unable to argue against it?
I feel like the issue with that argument is you're saying that.
Hey, Gunner 871, thanks for the follow.
And at the beginning of that example where you're saying,
you just put my Dabs ode back up to 9.
Voting this into place. You are putting the responsibility on them for that, but then you sort of say like,
it will happen.
I'm putting the responsibility on that, and then other people are saying that they're not responsible. And I'm saying if that is your position, that you are not responsible for the growth and purview and power of the state, right? Then you need to make the same argument for the Republicans in order to be logically consistent. And therefore, Republican voters cannot be cruel just because they vote in GOP politicians that do cruel things.
But not all policy expands the purview of the state. Like, I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, where, yeah, if they vote in something new to expand the state, then yes, I think that they're responsible if the other side uses that against them. But not all
the Republicans
expand the state.
Are the Republicans responsible because of the new abortion law, states getting involved in people's medical decisions? What if states just go and say, like, now you have to get vaccinated? Are the Republicans responsible for that?
Of course. Absolutely.
They're not. They're not.
When Republicans stand aside and allow the purview and power of the state to grow, it's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. They're both fucking evil. The only thing they give a fuck about is expanding their own power and making their corporate friends wealthy.
So I wanna actually give an olive branch to you.
I am on mute. I'm so glad that we got new friends following. I appreciate that, Gunner 871.
Democracy is not a spectator sport, right? And since we do have a say, we are, to a certain extent, always responsible. Like, we can't just say just because we didn't vote in for Trump, right? That we have no responsibility for his actions. It's a democracy.
I'm going to need a source for that too,
right?
Duty.
You can't say, well, it was the Electoral College, because you had an opportunity to change it, right?
I mean, it's like less than 60% of people are even fucking voting. Mail-in voting last election, pandemic.
Yeah, but they are responsible too. The people who aren't voting, right? That's a choice. So I would say that if you are taking it to that extreme, then I would say that we all are responsible for everything that happens in a democracy. If it's a democracy that honestly works, that people can engage with, right? Not just like a complete sham democracy, right? But if it is an honest democracy, and to a certain extent, yes, you do have some sort of moral duty, and you do have some responsibility for everything that happens. Like a person in fucking in the Middle East, right? That receives a Hellfire bomb on their house, an American-made Hellfire bomb, doesn't give a shit whether you voted for Trump or not, right? Like,
Or
that
Biden.
was
Biden's the one that's
no. But
Based.
okay, Trump or Biden, what does it matter? I mean, but Biden's here. Same thing.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
I get what you're saying. But anyway, yeah, they don't care who you put for president. They don't give a shit, right? They know that
You know, come in my chat and get gushy on a right winger.
Did that to their family, and we are responsible for that in a democracy. So
at least that's logically consistent. That's not what other people here are saying.
It's crazy.
What is your dream scenario?
Hard take.
Fabian? Like,
Yeah,
say
that's
we
what I was
take your
gonna ask.
prescription. Like, okay, we take your advice. Like, you are convincing everyone, and everyone is doing what you say. Does that erode the power of the government? Does it like fall apart, and we put it back together the way we see fit, and it's like a small government the way you want? Or
If you're asked, I'm not a minarchist. I mean, like I said, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in the state.
You should be.
But I mean, I'm not a minarchist.
Wait, can I ask a few questions? Like, first, what do you mean by you don't believe in the state? Because the state exists, you just don't want it to, right? And my second question is, what is your plan to get to your preferred society?
Well, I would work mostly with libertarians and constitutional conservatives to reduce the power of the state.
How would they reduce the power of the state? Like through what action?
You fellas been doing a bit of boozing, have you?
Are you talking like a revolution, or are you talking through law?
Oh, hell yeah, a whole lot of that shit. You know it, mofos.
I would do it in local elections, most likely executive, and then hopefully secessionist activities.
Let the beer out.
But you're voting in local elections?
Do you like contracts in your society?
I mean, I'm an ANCAP, yeah. It's kind of contract law is kind of a big part of it.
All right, who would enforce these contracts?
But reality. Hold on, reality.
Do you want to debate anarcho-capitalism and let me take over PrimeCayes' entire stream and content?
Yeah, that would be
You're right.
Discussion about whether or not right-wing individuals are cool or the Republicans.
Look, yeah, nothing like being cool with a glass in your breakfast cereal.
I can take it over and take you all on if you want, but it's not my stream.
No. And
hey,
where,
ANCAP, you can do whatever you want with your shit.
You're right. We don't want to jump into anarchism, right? Because the reality here is the reason why he decided to point out that he would be working with constitutional conservatives, right, is because he wants to be able to reduce the size of the government to something that is actually formable, right? So, like, imagine this scenario, if you will, right? Take some time to take yourself back to a time when there wasn't as much government as there is now. Like, I guarantee that there are so many people out there right now.
When was this point that was perfect?
That are not in the Twitch politics community specifically, but out there in the world that go, if it wasn't for the government and warning labels being on everything, I might not be alive today because I'm a fucking dumbass. How many people?
Oh, I'm sure there are many. I'm sure there are many.
Tranquilizer.
Say again?
All the ivermectin users.
What did you say, Pan? I didn't hear what Pan said. Pan, what did you say?
I was just making a joke about the ivermectin dewormer thing. I'm not actually serious. I agree.
Okay. Right. So then, like, because of that, right, you can't go full anarchism because that literally means no government. And if there's no government,
it means no state.
Literally,
it's self-governing.
Please tell me there's a state and a government. You talk with so many ANCAPs. Please tell me there's a state and a government.
What do you think anarchy is? What do you think anarchy is?
It's abolishment of the state, not the government.
Okay, what do you think the fucking state is?
The state is the harmful portions of the government. Anyone would argue that.
Okay, let
It's
me
a
look at
monopoly on power and violence.
No. I got the definition right here. Anarchy, right? A state of lawlessness.
Anarchism, not anarchy. Anarchism.
Anarchy
is the incorrect definition.
The reality here is, right, is the first definition is absence of government.
Isms is a schisms.
A state
and it ain't making me feel right, yo.
Political disorder due to the absence of governmental authority, right? C, a utopian society of individuals who enjoy complete freedom without government. So Fabian here thinks that the best way for him moving forward is for there to be no government, and I can only assume that's because he feels completely secure.
I used to be comfortable with anarcho-socialism.
To be able to perpetuate himself into the future.
Really, you could still do that.
Any type of government at all. what that means is that
I
he
am
should be
so
able to
sorry
carry
you did
his
that.
ass out into the woods.
That's
right,
torture.
Build a fucking hut and be able to carry on without any fucking government at all. Which is why he ends up
He
reaching
just wants
out
to get me off Twitch. He just wants to get me off Twitch because I'm fucking
just-
up in these panels.
So the reality here is, right, is he reaches out to constitutional conservatives because, right, we
Oh, I
want
don't
a
care.
minimal amount of government because
If you
we can
guys like
see
it,
the
it's
very
cool.
real
I just,
benefits
yeah.
of there being
I get embarrassed every time I hear it.
roadways, right? People wanting to create business that provide goods and services to other individuals, right? We can see the real benefits of that as far as community is concerned. That's why he reaches out to the right side of things and not the left side of things, because the left side of things
You
ends up
fellas
being
been doing
a
a bit of
burden on
boozing, have you?
society.
Hey, if you're watching but not following,
The left side
why
of
don't you go
politics
ahead and
end
hit
up
that
coming
follow
from?
button?
It ends up
We
coming
love you.
from private
We want to hang out with you.
organizations that should be providing, right, or at least trying to
I get
provide
addiction a lot.
the types of things that they would have in the past.
I
And
had
where
some
does that come
80s dude
from?
used to always say, that's a
Christianity
panty
here in
dropper.
the
That's
United
a
States,
panty
because
dropper. I'm
it's
like,
been
that's so gross
Christianity
sounding.
that has been,
Like, I don't like
before
that
you-
term.
before you
That
fucking
fucking bug. Oh,
Before you
I
interrupt,
did it again.
right? It has been
That
Christianity
bugs me.
that has been the stop. I realize that.
See,
At the
he
same
almost
time,
gets to where
right?
what
So
he's
does
saying is
Prime.
good,
It's not like
and then
Prime is unaware of
it's
what's
bad.
going on his fucking panel right now. He knows exactly what's going on. So, because of that, right, Christianity has been the one facilitating Christianity and communities specifically within the communities. Right now, has it been fucked up from time to time with, say, like,
I think he's I think he has some like slight leanings in some ways,
right?
but not
It
always.
has been at the same time Christians that have taken the mantle up of wanting to push the war on drugs onto
Jesus
the
was a
people,
socialist.
which has led to a lot of fucking atrocities at the same fucking time. So this is where Christians and their ideology and quite
Your local
frankly,
Bible.
the obfuscation of responsibility that they have done that has forced, right, in some people's minds, the need to push this to the government.
Actually, he
level, which
overthrew the
creates
capitalists,
dynamic
the
between
tax
where Fabian
collectors,
Liberty is at as an anarchist,
and the bankers.
CTV is at as a
He did it so good. It was
conservative, which then
wonderful.
leads to the rise, right, of those on the left that are still screaming for some type of social justice in this world, when in reality, what needs to happen is the conservatives need to stop trying to obfuscate their responsibility of community onto the
He likes to
government
say
and start
obfuscate
taking
responsibility
full
a lot.
fucking responsibility and
He
getting
says
back
that
into
all the freaking time, dude. Shush.
All I got to say to that is I agree, except I don't go to the fucking right when I want to talk about cops.
Thank you.
And I'm almost done with this jar of moonshine, just so y'all know.
But everything else I'm for. But
Stella.
we ain't talking to the right when we talk about
Not
cops.
based. You don't back the blue?
No, not a goddamn one of them.
I hope you also don't talk
Join
to the
Stella
right when we're
Artois.
talking about drug policy.
Well, the right has just as
I
much
talk to the
government
right.
drug war people
I
as fucking
talk
left
to
are.
fucking whoever, and I shut down the fucking right too. Coming on a lefty podcast is not fucking unusual, and me going on a far right podcast is not fucking unusual. I go on fucking all of them. I don't give a fuck. I talk to anybody, and that's the message of the Wolfpack.
Dan, please.
Okay, first thing is, charity has been around much longer than Christianity, and two, like, the process of what I get. Just to be clear, to be good faith to Fabian, I get
Wait, how
where
do
you're
you
coming.
know that? How do you know that,
Yeah,
Dan?
assume like literally.
How do you know that? No, stop. I gotta ask you, Dan. Look, reality. Yeah, but you made a statement. You made Dan.
Let me finish.
You made a statement, though. You made a statement.
Hold on.
Let me finish.
Shut up.
Source.
I'm really doing the fanatic thing.
He
Let me
made
finish.
half a statement. He made half a statement. Let him finish, please.
He made a full statement, to be fair.
Okay, to continue, as Fabian, I get the point of the context you're coming from. That the process of how everyone's this cruelty, at least the worst parts of the world, comes from the people who have power from the top down, and I get that. However, a lot of the case of giving forward for at least our side, I at least think that there has to be a form of stability through a process of a group of people that understands how government works to then process a social net to everyone else so that they can have better lives. If given to part where everyone's like on their own to that so then they can be free, even to the expect of your case, I just think that it's just extreme exploitative to the maximum extent. That's my point.
Okay, so Fabian, I want you to remember your response to this, right? Because like the very real question that I have to ask is, Dan, you made the statement that charity is older than Christianity.
Yes,
I want you to tell me how it is that you actually know this, since you decided to assert a statement.
Okay, the first thing comes to my head is ancient to middle kingdom Egypt had like cults to where they have given too much to their community. Cults is derived from a different term of those who specifically worship a specific god. To then also the kings put forth their charity of their own penance to the temple.
Are you not
goes back to the
Are you
rest
not
of the community
familiar with the Old Testament? Are you not familiar
I
with the
don't-
Old Testament?
I'm giving you an answer of something before Christianity.
Isn't the Old Testament Judaism, though? Come on, homie. Get real. The Old Testament is Judaism.
Yeah, wait, are you trying to say Judaism doesn't have
let me finish. And I don't know this completely, but I am pretty good guess that at least Sumar had at least some forms of charity too.
Okay, so here's the reality. Since you just said guess, don't make assertions of statements of fact. Right?
Yeah,
Don't do that. And I will have the motherfucker say something against it whenever you're the one sitting there talking about Christianity. Right? You said charity predated Christianity, right? And that right there is a false statement from the start.
Well, it kind of isn't, because our first economies were gift economies. So that's not wholly inaccurate.
Real quick.
Get drunk right now.
Oh my
real
God.
quick. Real quick.
He already gave you a statement.
Real quick. Can I just say something super fast? Amos in the Old Testament, Judges. I mean, he was picked to be a judge by God because the northern Judea was fucking up and not taking care of the widows and the poor, thus proving that before the judge needed to
Well,
be
my
sent,
daddy
the
was a
ancient
minister and a
Israelites
judge.
in the Bible itself.
Yeah.
Had
I was
systems
a
of charity
preacher's
for
kid
the
and an
widows and the poor.
attorney's kid.
Right,
Judge's
and
kid.
Also within
I was so
Judaism, there
screwed.
like this
That was
concept of
horrible.
tzedakah. It's like you're supposed to, you were like required to donate something every time.
He was vouch.
That might, to be fair, we don't know whether or not that's rabbinical Judaism, which would have been formed after Christianity, but you can definitely say that the Old Testament has evidence of charity. But what you're talking about might just be rabbinical Judaism, which would technically not predate Christianity.
Fair enough, but I mean, also is the claim that like the notion or act of charity didn't exist prior or like outside of any religious structure?
No,
like...
he just wanted Dan to prove it. Really. That's how CTV works. He's just fucking with him.
What about Zoroaster then? Should we get into that? Because Zoroaster predates all of that, and there was definitely elements of charity in those works.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a written history goes back so far. It would be like astonishing if there was no charity before Christianity. That would be like in and of itself.
We don't
Thank
have
you.
To we don't have to get lost in this. We can.
Yeah, what the hell are we talking about?
Fabian, you can continue your response.
No, that was all. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
That's how you shut him down.
I mean,
you drop the fact
specifically
bomb.
Talking about anarcho-capitalism.
Boom.
I mean, like I have a channel for that, right? the question here is whether or not the right wing or whether or not the Republican
Charity in
Party
practice. Its original gifting societies date back to before ancient Egypt.
I feel like I've already made an extremely strong case that no one has actually been able to engage with except for you. And you said that the entire citizenry of America is responsible for the actions of the Republican Party. And I said, well, that's logically consistent. And so I would actually probably agree with that. But I was just pointing out that false dichotomy that a lot of the other individuals here said when I gave an example of how they don't understand that by voting for larger state power that they're responsible for what the Republicans do that they don't like because they gave them the power to do that. And you said, hey, everybody's responsible because we all got to participate. And I respect that opinion.
Wait, so
I
just
disagree with
clarify,
it, but I respect it.
just to clarify something you said earlier, Fabian, about like I think you were asked how you
What?
would implement, you know, your like I guess moving closer to your ideal system, and you said you would do it by voting. It sounded like you were saying just more on the local level, or like not the federal level. But so are you saying then that your argument earlier only applies to
Follow
federal
me,
level
bruh.
voting, or?
No, of course not. No, what I was saying is I was
I
presenting an
talk
argument
politics,
to show
and I'm a really
kind of what
shitty
Dr. Red
gamer.
Pill did earlier in terms
And
of
I like to sit on panels
looking at the regressivism
and
as you see it of the
talk
right
politics
wing
with panels.
versus the regressive nature of Islam. I was just saying like, well, hey, we see some more cognitive dissonance here, right? You're willing to blame the Republicans for things, but not willing to blame yourself for the same things. So I was pointing that out. Me personally, I don't see an issue with voting so long as you're voting to reduce the power and purview of the state.
Well, but what if your objective is different? What if your objective is, like you posited, you know, as an example, to get a single payer healthcare system in place? Like, yeah, that would certainly expand.
You're responsible for the consequences of your actions, just like I would be. You're responsible of what the system does with the power that you give it. So if you give it more power,
Post show
and
now to be. I
nothing
appreciate
bad
you hanging
happens
out
from
with
that
us.
at all, and like it becomes like
Even though you're
better
going to
than
end
the
up
UK
leaving
or
us for
Canada system,
CTV.
where,
I
like,
see how it
people
is.
die at a higher rate from lack of access to medical care than they do here in the United States. Right? Like, then you're responsible for that. But hey, if it works out swimmingly and saves a ton of lives and saves us money, you're also responsible for the good consequences. But any power you
Just
give the
kidding.
state, you are responsible for, not just the specific politician that you voted in.
You
You're
guys are all
responsible
wonderful
for the
people
power
for
that
hanging
you
out
give
with
the
me.
state, regardless of who gets voted in, because you supported that system.
Okay. So, all right. I kind of want to.
Gino, thanks for hanging out.
So, first of all, does anyone disagree with the statement that I had made before about democracy? About that, if you are basically anyone here who is 18 plus, who has the option to vote, right? That you are then responsible for what your democracy, what your government does.
I completely disagree.
All of it. Do you disagree with that?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that's not at all fair. Like I disagree with so much that the government does. And what?
No, I didn't say you have to agree with it. I say you're responsible for it. And
As citizens of this country, I think we're all responsible for what happens in our country and what our country does elsewhere. If we can't sway each other culturally and socially and politically, then you know what? We are all at fault. You're absolutely right. We are all at fault when we're doing horrible atrocities overseas in other countries. We are all at fault when we exploit the global south. We are all at fault when we have starving people in this country. We are at fault. It's a collective moral fault. It's not one person or another or one party or another. We collectively are at fault.
Yeah, could we say if we're not active? If we're not active, we're at fault.
Yeah, like I mean, I voted against fucking all this foreign intervention and stuff. I voted against the policies I don't like. Did activism for it too. I became a precinct.
There's a difference between individually being at fault and collectively being at fault, right?
Well, I don't think.
I think we can collectively be at fault, but not individually be at fault.
We're muddying the language now, right? And I like to pride myself as simple-minded as I fucking am from the mountains of North Carolina, right? Right? Like as simple-minded as I am, I do like to keep the language clear, right? So responsible and at fault, right, are two separate and apart ideas. So responsible for, right, is the implication that you had the ability to be able to change. At fault is like you are solely responsible for this thing, right? Like solely responsible is the difference there, right? So like because of that, I don't want to muddy up the language, right? So the responsibility, right, of the bad policies, especially with the way that Prime was describing it on the world stage, which is a very macro way of looking at this thing, right? Like fucking Iranians, Afghanis, fucking they don't care, right? That it was fucking Democrats and Republicans that made the decision. The reality of the situation is at the end of the day that they are going to hold America responsible, and that was exactly what Prime's point is. And you're right. Absolutely fucking right. Every single American has a part to play, right, in this. And if you didn't fucking vote, then guess what? You're just as fucking guilty as anybody else. Even though you chose to abstain, guess what? You're a fucking American citizen. You're responsible, right? So then all that matters at the end of the day, right, is that coming down to these individual, very micro conversations, right, in order to sway minds, right, to look at things in a particular way to see if that is going to be the best way moving forward for the country as a whole. The reality of the situation is that what we've had in Congress for the past 100 years has been politicians rather than statesmen thinking about what's actually been best for the country. And especially now here in the 21st century, they're only worried about what makes them look good on Twitter versus what actually makes them good for the country.
Just get the money out of politics and we're good.
Difference between if I'm just because a collective is responsible for the actions of the collective, that doesn't mean every individual member inside the collective also shares that property, right? So yes, I agree that as Americans, we all together are responsible for our foreign policy and are responsible for acting to changing it. But that doesn't mean that every individual in the system who's acting to change it is directly like the individuals themselves are responsible for the crimes. Like no politician I've ever voted for has gotten elected. So, and I have voted in every time I could. So I don't see how I could possibly be responsible for these policies that I absolutely abhor and actively vote against. Like, yes, I can see individual. Let me specify individually. I don't think you can be individually responsible for things you vote against.
I would disagree with you only because, like, when you think about like how you make change in like a situation where multiple people are involved in like voting, even in general, like even if you make a right decision, if you can't convince other people to do what you think is right, then it means you just weren't good enough at like. That means you were responsible, right? Because you couldn't convince other people to believe in the same thing that you believe in, right?
I've convinced a lot of people. I got my girlfriend, who is a social democrat, to vote for fucking Joe Jorgensen. So I did my part.
Well, I mean more so like
fucking brags.
Why would you brag about that?
Brags?
Pragmatism.
Stay mad.
Fucking Mises caucus all day.
Fuck
Prime,
you.
can I ask you a elaborating question? Prime, do you think there's any, like, under that logic, do you think there's anything anyone could do to not be at fault outside of, like, maybe
there it
moving away
is.
from the country and even
You guys, I knew it was going to happen.
Like, is there anything that a person could do? Like, if they dedicated their entire life, every second about it, without, like, while still keeping themselves alive, to their advocating for their political values through the most effective way possible, is that person still at fault?
This is pretty funny.
I would say, your fault
I got it in bed.
spectrum. So you can reduce your fault, right? Like you can vote for the other party that says we want to end a war rather than start a war or continue a war, right? You can do that to reduce your fault. But in democracy, we're all responsible for everything.
So, like, but there's nothing that you could ever do to not be responsible, right?
It's a good question. I can't think off the top of my head a way to exit the system.
You could
like
vote
original
to reduce
sin.
the power and purview of the state.
Well, so I think. That... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that like this notion of this collective responsibility is, like, I would agree with Prime on what he said, and somewhat with Fabian, although I kind of disagree somewhat. I'll get into that in a sec, but like.
I'm just not that likable. That's all that is.
No, it's not even. It's not even that. I think you are likable, but the issue is that you're equating voting for something that you want to happen like to be the exact equivalent with voting for the opposite and still having having the thing that you don't want to happen. Like I mean, it's
No,
sort of like
I'm just saying being responsible for the power that you give the government.
Right, but you
Isn't
yourself,
just it isn't just this thing about the one individual you vote for. It's about how that power is used. It's about the consequences of your action. When you vote to increase the power of the state, you are responsible for the things that state does with that power.
Sure, but you yourself said that in an effort to get your objectives, I guess to move closer to your ultimate objective, you would vote yourself. What if you voted and the thing and the people you voted for or the things that you voted for weren't they didn't win, they didn't pass or whatever, right? Like would you say that then you bear the responsibility for them not going through?
You bear the responsibility of your candidate not winning because you voted for them?
That sounds like what your argument is.
It's not your argument.
Can I clarify?
No,
It's
but you
almost like
hold on. Go ahead.
It's almost like a political compass test where he's saying like you're pushing the state power up and then they can swing left or right. So you're going for a left wing objective. What you're really doing is like increasing the power so that when it swings back to the right and pendulums, like more intense right wing.
You're moving towards authoritarianism away from libertarianism. And just because you're voting for left libertarianism, the power the state is given, when the right authoritarians do the things that you don't like, you're still responsible.
Right, I understand the argument that voting, like if the policies you're voting for or the people that you're voting into office are people that will put into place things that expand the power of the government, that you bear a certain degree of responsibility for whatever happens beyond that point with that expanded power. I understand that.
Been doing a bit of
argument,
boozing, have you?
But
Sucking back on Grandpa's old cough medicine?
I guess it just seems kind of like you're basically saying that you can't hold any sort of left-wing positions and not bear responsibility for all outcomes.
Oh no, you could easily do things that don't increase the authoritarian power of the state and be left wing and advocate and even engage in left wing praxis, right? Like you could join a insurance company that's a socialist co-op, right? And I mean, right now only the Christians are doing it because, for whatever reason, but like that is use a progressive system where the rich people pay more and the poor people pay less, and there's a charity model built into that system. There's tons of things you could do, but if you're arguing,
he's talking about voluntarism, that's not socialism. Voluntarism is not socialism.
Control these things and take it out of the responsibility.
Charity is not socialism.
Americans in this country, you have to be responsible for the consequences of the growth of the state that you did.
Okay, Fabian, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
obviously. Do you view extension of democracy as a form of authoritarianism?
Yeah, I think democracy is authoritarian.
Why?
Because it's tyranny of the majority. If I'm in the minority and I lose, then like for example, public property, right? I can't divest from public property. Instead, I'm forced to pay taxes for whatever the state wanted to do with that property.
It's not democracy necessarily. It's like centralization of power.
So like the problem that we like run into here is like I view
I don't know how this became a fucking ANCAP thing again. Like
no, I know, but like this is the.
I guess I'm just so fucking interested.
No, I'm
like, this isn't
I'm using this to extend past.
Well, you kind of keep bringing it back to it, so.
Well, I'm conflating an argument to it. So like the argument that I'm making specifically is I would disagree with that entirely. I think democracy is when the most people have the right in what happens to the country. If you want to define that as authoritarianism, I guess, but I view that as like not bad or anything. So like if I want a democracy while still holding to some constitutional rights, if I want the democracy to have the most rights as possible, and I don't view that as like a bad thing, then how is that like if I don't seek to reduce the state, I don't see the direct correlation there.
Well, I'm just saying if you don't seek to reduce the power of the state, then you're responsible for what the state does.
No, but I seek to reduce the power of the people that would use the state incorrectly. In my view.
You seek to tilt it left, but you still want it up. So like to get Medicare for all, you need like more authoritarian, like more centralization and more.
I would disagree with that.
Power. Okay.
Well, you literally can't.
Right? No, because you define democracy as authoritarianism, which I would like. Authoritarianism.
Wait, I would authoritarianism when you say that.
Yeah.
That's a very weird term to use there.
Well, I mean, it's not that weird. I don't understand, right? Like you're taking away individual rights. taking away the freedoms of individual people.
I view the
comparison
opposite
to having no government. Is that what you're saying? Like, in the comparison of
Well,
no government.
obviously, in my opinion, right? But I mean, you would agree that a monarchy or a dictatorship is more authoritarian than a liberal democracy, right? But he asked me specifically if democracy is authoritarian. I said,
No, can I finish my point with what I was saying? I'll let you go after CTV.
I want you to finish your point, right? But like, I've got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
A lot of questions being asked right now. Like, and the one that is the most pertinent, right, is like, what is up with Panda Turtle's
I will take a goddamn democratic republic over a lot of governments.
That's the one, man. Like, what is up with this camera? Right? Like,
it's like a Facebook mom's profile picture, like her first one.
I don't get it, right? So like, I don't know if it's like you're trying for like a halfway look up from the fucking balls, but like it's not quite there. Like, I don't get it, right? So like, you gotta explain to me, Panda Turtle, what this is about, because I don't understand.
CCP beat me to it, dude. You gotta do better. You gotta do better. This is not working for me. I hate it. I hate it so much. You gotta do better. You gotta do better. I don't know. Come up with a better setup next time, okay? Because this is not good. This is not good.
Okay. I'm gonna wrap up my argument. Like, I'll just wrap up my argument, and then I'll let anyone else go, because I'm probably gonna like head off soon, because I've been streaming this for 4 hours. So like, I would.
Those are rookie numbers. You gotta bring those numbers up.
Yeah, I know, but it's like really late. I'm on East Coast, so like, fuck. And I have like a stream to do in a few hours.
You fellas been doing a bit of boozing, have you? Sucking back on Grandpa's old
not
cough
like
medicine?
an extension of like the majority over the minority. I view the opposite of authoritarianism as giving as much power in the hands of as many people as possible, which I view democracy as the only means to accomplish that. And I would say that your system is nonsense, but that can be entirely a different conversation. So like, I would say that if I see
pejoratives and then just be like,
well, no, if you want to respond, no, I'm just like saying that I disagree with sense that like democracy is authoritarianism. That's what I meant by that. Sorry if you came out with pejorative. So like
that is so loud. My headphones. Hang on.
Giving it to the most people vote as possible. I would not say that. No, that is incredibly the opposite.
It's so loud, dude.
Like what we get into. You're destroying the state. How is that?
You're getting in the weeds of authoritarianism
Hold
as
on,
like this
baby,
pejorative,
baby, and
as
trust me,
opposed to
baby, and trust
understanding
me,
that
baby,
there's
and trust me,
authoritarianism at the very
baby,
No,
top.
I know. I need to turn down Streamlabs,
baby, and
and then it doesn't matter.
Right?
My Streamlabs is just rocking. I have it all the way up, and I don't need it that loud.
Sin. So Sin, explain to me how
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But explain to me how you remain philosophically consistent whenever you would argue against authoritarianism, whenever you want to give the power to the most extent possible, which is what you just said, right? That means that the power, right, to the most extent possible, which is the very thing that would create authoritarianism inside of a government.
So I view democracy as an extension of personal freedoms. So I think, and that's like what authoritarianism is, as I see it as its definition.
It's all great as long as you're the winner of the vote.
Well, sure, but
well, in ANCAP, it's the guy with the most chips, right? The guy with the most money. So if you're broke ass and you're a worker, you get no worker protections because you don't give a shit about worker protections. You get no protections for your food or anything you eat or anything you drink because, hey, why put warning labels on it? We're gonna sell you what's gonna sell the most, and we have no regulation. So here, go ahead and we'll put glass in your breakfast cereal because it sells better. You know what? That's the problem with ANCAP. It's a short-sighted system.
No, it's not short-sighted. It's actually incredibly complex, and you just don't understand it when you make those arguments.
It is. I want to get back to the discussion, so I have a question for for Prime. So my question is, you say
That's
that.
a big difference.
Yeah, there's a big difference. So what I want to say is that, okay, so you say that you have responsibility for everything in your country. Why does it not extend?
Well, you know what his argument's going to be? Oh, well, the market will take care of it. The market will take care of it. The market doesn't take care of shit. The market takes care of itself. Business owners take care of what makes them more money.
Responsible for the situation in Saudi Arabia? Why am I not responsible for literally anything?
Robber barons.
If you can say that, okay, I'm responsible for the Middle East.
I'm not talking about small to medium-sized businesses. I'm talking about the businesses and the money interests that would push for something like ANCAP, which are rich people. You know who want ANCAP? Rich people.
You are responsible for whatever America has its
because they don't pay taxes.
Right, but America could have.
They don't pay taxes. They're not regulated for anything. They can do whatever the freak they want on the whole goddamn planet.
Could have its hand in anything doesn't necessarily mean that it does. So you're going to need to be able to give me a relevant example
Jackasses
of which to you are referring.
Stupid mindset. I read all about it. I was an anarchist. I was also a big-time conspiracy theorist. I've jumped down all these rabbit holes.
Stop.
Sorry.
Hypothetically, the Roman Empire could have had its hand at that time in any fucking cookie jar that it wanted to.
No, you don't get that.
Right? It could have, so that's where the hypothetical falls apart, and I do like to live in some sense of reality.
All right, well, we can live in reality, but the reality is what the U.S. policy is on a certain issue is not something I can directly control, which means if I can't directly control it, it could just as easily have been somewhere else, right? It could just as easily, instead of us being in war in Afghanistan, let's say we were in war in, like, I don't know, Chad or somewhere. Like, would you agree with that?
So, if you want to say that because of America's power, that America Americans have the most responsibility, I'd be okay with that. I mean, like if you're
I'm just trying to expand your definition to somewhere that I think is absurd, because I think it's absurd to say I have responsibility over everything in the world, like anything that anyone could do. I have responsibility because I live in America, and
hold on. Prime wants to respond. Prime wants to respond, and he's sick, so I'm trying to help him out. Right? So Prime, go ahead.
America's reach is not infinite.
The first time I've not heard him talk over somebody. Holy shit.
Of any other nation. So I would say that they have the most responsibility, but they're not responsible for everything that happens. As we can see in Afghanistan, America can only do so much, right? That's a testament to the limits of our imperial powers.
No. We could go in guns ablazing with 100,000 troops, 1 million American troops, go in there, completely take them over.
I mean, that's fair. I mean,
at what cost?
But can we also at the same time?
I'm afraid to look at Discord.
All of the countries.
Not at the same time, but for any individual country, yeah, we could do it.
Okay.
And my point is that, if we could do it, I don't think it's fair to say that
Hold on, Pan. Hold on.
You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't talk over Prime.
Be extremely generous to Prime right now. His voice is obviously limited, and while I realize that he and I, right, might be considered best friends, right? Like, I definitely want to make sure that that he is getting the voice that is needed, considering we all understand that he's sick, right? So, Prime?
I don't think the U.S. has the ability to simply change every country. Even if, I don't think simply having troops there means that you can change the culture of a specific country, right? That you can necessarily control everything about it just by having American troops there. So I don't put that responsibility on Americans.
Oh no.
However, if you're saying America could step into any individual conflict, and we don't because we have politically decided not to, and we bear responsibility for that, I'd be willing to go that far.
Okay, but what I'm saying is,
please don't.
Said that because I couldn't convince enough people
Keep it
in
clean,
America
folks.
to not go to war in the Middle East, I'm responsible. couldn't you not say the same thing? Because I wasn't able to convince the Afghan, or we were not able to convince the Afghan people to, you know, become a liberal democracy.
You'd be surprised at what I can see.
Because like I agree that what I'm saying is absolutely absurd, and there's no reason that any individual of us should say that, oh, we're
Hi,
responsible
Duty.
for what the
I
Taliban
see you.
does. But I'm just saying that this logic seems to be able to extend indefinitely.
No, like you said, it's absurd. So.
Right, but
Panda, I need you to do something about this kid. Do something better, please. It's bothering me. You gotta do something better. Okay. No, it doesn't extend. Like I said, what did I say? Right? Is that we're responsible because we live in a democracy, and that democracy.
I see all the things.
Right? We don't live in their democracy. We don't make political decisions at their.
Why are dolphins farting
right?
in my chat?
So yeah.
Dolphin farts.
Responsible.
So do you go back to all of the other individuals' level of cognitive dissonance?
Explain, please. For me?
Yeah, well, I just mean the idea of like we're responsible for. You had the original argument that we're responsible for everything that America does, and it seems like you're kind of backpedaling a little bit on that.
No,
you said that it was absurd.
No. What he said was absurd. Yes, but it doesn't take away from what I said. What I said still counts.
But what I said was the natural extension of what you said. If I have a responsibility to something outside of my control, like the election in the U.S., why don't I have the responsibility for something else that is outside?
No, it's not outside your control. It's not outside your control. It's not.
Why do you draw that line? Why do you draw that line?
We have a responsibility to what happens in our country, and we have the ability to sway opinion if we so choose to do collectively. And if we aren't acting, and if we aren't doing anything ourselves, and if we aren't at least coming on panels like this and talking about the stuff with other American citizens, we aren't doing our part. We are certainly at fault if bad things happen. And you know what? No matter what, if we can't sway public sentiment enough to do the right thing, then yes, we are all collectively at fault. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, Canadians, get out. Anyway, yes, I'm with you there 100%. Yeah, so I'm saying that within the you're saying that's the break we're having here. You're saying that you consider an election to be outside of your control. That you that just your vote is enough, and if you happen to vote the other way, then that's it. That clears your responsibility. I disagree there. I say that you can always, well, you can't always, but you can always try to do more, right? And convince more. Form another organization that works on it, right? You think that, like, for instance, the fact that Trump won because of the Electoral College. Right? We already knew this was a problem. Bush did it. Happened with Bush.
Define why it's a problem. I'm just curious.
But that because it overrode the will of the people, right? In terms of a large democracy, you know, the majority.
So you're saying federalism and like division of power between states and the federal government is a problem? You want the federal government to be supreme? I'm trying to understand.
I think he's referring to a direct democracy, which is what we should have: one voice, one vote.
Yeah.
So you believe in direct democracy?
No.
I'm just curious.
Listen, because you're putting words in my mouth. So listen. I say that we should just directly vote for a president. That's not direct democracy. Just like in that instance, it's direct democracy. But not for everything. Just for instance, we should be able to directly vote for a president.
Well, that's
nothing else.
We actually directly vote for everything else except for the president. The only time we use the Electoral College is for the president. That is the only time we use the Electoral College. So that makes no sense.
This is the problem. Bush, as well, got into the Electoral College. What did the Democrats do? They cried, they bitched, and they moaned about the Electoral College, how it wasn't, how it allowed this tragedy of the Bush administration. And then what
our senators aren't voted in with the Electoral College because the Electoral College happens on a national level.
Here, I haven't actually done it. Other than talk about it, I haven't actually done anything. So I'm responsible too.
Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible to get.
I think we should
majority
have
of the
national
states
referendums,
together
though.
to get rid of the electoral college.
Yeah, of course.
So you think a bunch of red states would sign on to get rid of the electoral college?
Of course you can. Of course you can convince
Turn
people.
to blue.
You can convince red states who aren't electorally electorally advantaged by the college to sign on, right? You can convince them.
I don't think you could do it.
Hey, all you lefties, we need to move to like Kentucky and stuff.
I think you absolutely could, but
Prime, you're absolutely out of your fucking mind if you think that any red states are going to sign on for Joe Biden's plan, which was a part of his political campaign, right, to start restricting the manufacture of guns. If you really think that any red state is going to be... That was a part of his political campaign.
That's it. I'm moving to North Carolina. I am moving to North Carolina. I will be the socialist on your socialists in North Carolina.
Absolutely a part of his political campaign was to start being able to reduce...
We're talking about the electoral college right now, not gun rights.
You're fucking missing the point. You think you're going to be able to turn red states whenever the left's platform or the Democratic platform is going to be reducing the manufacture of guns inside of particular states. You're absolutely fucking nuts. There is no way red states that believes in the individual's right to keep and bear arms is going to ever sign on with any left platform that has them advocating for the exact same thing. And if you think I'm fucking lying, go to Joe Biden's campaign right now and see exactly what it is that he was advocating for on the fucking campaign trail.
Okay, now what we're talking about.
So, real quick to roll back for a second.
I'm moving to North Carolina.
You hold Pan responsible because he
Who's coming with me?
Bring enough people to vote as candidate, and that therefore he's responsible for everything American does, correct?
Are you American?
Yes.
Then you too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, would you also hold someone outside the country who has the potential to influence people inside our country responsible for the actions of Americans? Because they could have made a change, and not enough of them are acting up and making either, and they're not speaking out to people who they know in America, or they're not making a move to America trying to gain citizenship to change how it works. The problem is that you start to extend it, and it gets weird where it's like people from other countries can try to influence the people within our country, but they don't. So we kind of have to hold them responsible as well, where they can try to make pleas to make our politicians think
How many
differently
are we
or any
on?
type of thing like this, right?
So, like I said, responsibility. And I might have a different answer on this if
I thought I got it down from 10.
but for
Am I
now,
still
I'll
at
just
10, really?
That responsibility is on a scale. So if you were to add them to a scale, right?
Yeah, sure.
To like
Join Stella
almost
Artois.
approaching near zero, right? It's like you're approaching absolute zero in terms of cold, but you can never get there, right?
Cool.
So you're approaching it, or you're approaching light speed. You can never get there. So at some point, I think we're all responsible as a global humanity for all of our brothers and sisters.
Cool.
We're all responsible.
I 100% accept that because that kind of explains what I was kind of wondering how much fault you were putting on someone who, like Pan, if you're unable to make your person elected, but it's like near impossible to do, how much blame does that person really get? And I think you're pretty much on the lower end, and it kind of rises depending on how impactful your vote is. Am I correct in assuming that? Or your vote or your voice or anything like that? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Also, you maybe a bit more responsibility if you decide to toss away your vote. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah, toss it in the garbage can.
Like if you're in a swing state or something and your vote's much more important, then that's also going to change versus in like California where your vote's not as important. Okay.
Exactly.
I think one thing that is also a good perspective to have is like, even though like in the example that they were talking about with Pam, like even if like when you vote for someone that doesn't get elected, even though the result isn't what you want, was like a negative aspect, like you can take actions that don't lead to results that are necessarily in the moment positive, that can still have positive benefits in like
Look at my down. Look at my down.
Prime, like, can I just ask a little bit more question about this? So, like, do you believe that?
Hold on. Sin. Look, I realize you have something very important to say, but Prime, I would like to point out a fact right here at the moment. You have Queen Janie, right, in the waiting room right now. Why is it that Queen Janie is not a part of this present conversation?
Sexism.
Yeah, I'll message her. I'll message her.
That's why I wanted to make sure I pointed it out to you, brother, because I know that's important to you, right?
Yeah, it is actually. It is very important to me.
Exactly.
And I might move someone out to let, because I want to let more women in. Okay.
It's okay. I might actually just ask my question and then head out, I guess.
All right. Okay.
I'll say a little bit of answer for responses. I'm curious specifically about your prescription. So you say that we're all responsible. Do you think that we should seek to be as least responsible as possible then, to that degree, morally?
I mean, depends. I mean, if it's responsible for Medicare for all, I want to be more responsible. If I'm responsible for providing valuable foreign aid and generally helping assisting the welfare of our brothers and sisters around the world, then yeah,
What's 8 divided by 10?
So it depends.
So, like, let's say I do everything that I can think of within
0.20
to advocate for the system, right? Would you say that I was not, and like I know that's like a very broad thing, but would you say that I need to push farther for this? Like, I'm trying to do a lot now. I'm trying at the very least. I donate money that I get. I try and stream to push my message. I don't stream as much as I could, which I guess you could say I'm morally responsible for not streaming more. Would you say that I am morally required to do more because I'm so I could be doing more?
Morally responsible. Jamie, we can hear you typing if you can mute yourself.
I'm very sorry.
No problem. I would say, whether you do or not, I don't know. I feel like it's like, well, at some point, do I get a chance to eat? You know, like, do I get a chance to sleep? I feel like that can only go so far. I feel like you can, there's a balance to all these things. So like, I wouldn't shame a person trying their best, right? And their best is I wouldn't shame them for trying that and failing, right? So like, should you do more? Well, we should always do more for our fellow man and women and non-binary. But at some point, whatever. I forgot.
So yeah, so I can agree with pretty much everything you say as long as you weren't like morally held responsible for every action you do. Like I'm not gonna be like, should I stream more because I could like possibly spread my message more and get more people to agree with me, and like, am I required to do that morally? If you say no to that, I'm fine, and I'll agree with that statement. But if you say yes, that would be an entirely different conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, then I don't know how many people would disagree with it. Like, you can be responsible without having to morally do anything else, I guess. Then yeah, I'm probably gonna head out. I have a stream to do in the morning. Love you, Prime. Congrats on your everything that you've been doing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wait, Sin, hold on.
Hold
on.
Oh,
Why is it that you're not following my channel right now? Explain.
Oh, I am. I have a separate account that I follow like people on.
Wait. You're not following on these. Wait. Yeah, a separate account.
Yeah.
What are you afraid of owning your positions? Is that
No,
what this is about?
You want me to follow them on both?
You're fucking right. I want you to make sure that you're owning your own fucking positions. Why would I want anything else? I'm not a disingenuous grifter.
You know what? I will absolutely do it if you agree to have a conversation with me one-on-one in the future.
Dude, if you want to fucking talk, come by the fucking Wolf's Den. I'm willing to talk to fucking anybody.
Oh
right?
yeah. Okay, let me pull you up right now and I'll follow you.
Then fucking do it and quit being a fucking like second
I'm doing it right
account
now.
fucking troller. That's what it seems like right now.
It's called a lurker, okay? It's called a lurker.
Fucking do it. Now get the
I just
fuck
learned
out of
that.
this conversation. Get the fuck out. You already said you were leaving. Get the fuck out. We'll talk later.
You want me to follow you first?
I want you to get the fuck out. You said you were leaving. I'm holding you to your fucking word. Get the fuck out.
All
How's
right.
that? All right.
Everyone have a great.
While you're at
great
Sen,
Hey,
follow
buddy.
Problematic Pan.
All right. All right. I was gonna land that phalanx guy, but he disappeared. Oh well. But hopefully he'll come back. All right. So anyone else? Have you any questions or something? I don't know.
I wasn't paying attention before I came in, and we started at the whole if do we blame or how much responsibility do we have for people who participate in being American? Where did this stem from?
Yeah, I need to check in where we are at because
I feel like this must have been way off the main point.
Oh, Republicans being cruel. And Republicans being responsible for the cruelty of their own party. And
It came from me. I hopped in, right? And you guys were talking about Republican cruelty, and as the good praxis as the anarcho-capitalist, I was able to turn the entire discussion of the panel over into a discussion about what your rights and responsibilities are for state involvement in a discussion of state power, because I'm that badass. But if you want to get back to Republican cruelty, you know what I mean?
No one thinks you're badass.
No.
Goddamn right I did, son.
No, Fabian, you're fucking false. The reality is that you had to do the same thing.
You were talking about the Ottoman Empire's fucking cannon. Get the fuck out of here.
You. Fuck you. You want to make a statement like that? The reality of the situation is that you had to do the same thing that you do in every other argument, which is what? Appeal to constitutional conservatives, right? To try to join in on the fucking argument. So don't sit there as a disingenuous fuck, right? And try to claim that you did it all on your own, you motherfucker.
Fabian, I'm gonna expose you too. In the waiting room, you told me both me and CTV came here to fuck shit up. So you can't claim it now.
Oh, he's got you.
Can't claim it now.
I think it's
Say,
also. I think
say
it's
whatever
ironic.
you want, but it sounds like a bunch of lefties coping.
I think it's Fabian, I think it's ironic that you shit on the Prags yet team up with constitutional conservatives. What's going on?
Well, the Prags never did anything fucking pragmatic. That's why. Joe Bishop Henchman can eat a. You know what? TOS.
Wait, is that TOS to say eat a dick?
I don't think it's TOS.
That's not TOS to eat a dick, right? I mean, you can eat a dick. I mean, I don't recommend it, right? It certainly sounds to be like
why not
teetering off from other.
CTV, you should go eat a dick.
No, like right. Look, there's definitely look.
There's enough dick eating to go around here, okay?
It is TOS to eat a dick, by the way.
Hold on, no, it's fucking not. There is no look.
If I'm sitting,
that's a crime. That is a crime.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's cannibalism, isn't it?
Hold on. Look, it's not a crime, right? Because there is a group on Facebook, right, called Disgruntled Veterans, right, and they will send you, right,
and they
if you pay
cannibalize
for it,
wieners.
Right? Hold on. They will send a bag of candy dicks to whoever it is that you choose, right? Right?
Okay.
It's a candy dick, and and they will send the message along with it, right? A veteran somewhere, right, wants you to eat a bag of dicks, right? So like, I don't know how that could be
That just
TOS.
sounds like money exchange for goods and services.
Look, the fact of the matter is it's not TOS. That is literally candy.
It's
right?
your nasty brains that are making it TOS, all right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have your cameras on, you should be turning your cameras on so that we can all see your bright smiles. I'm just saying.
I don't wanna. I don't wanna show my face right
now.
When Bitch, when I'm good and ready, you'll see it, all right? Fucking,
look,
you'll be good.
You'll be good and ready whenever you decide to go brush your fucking teeth. So go ahead and fucking do it. I realize that it's like
CTV,
3 o'clock in the fucking morning.
Running
go
your
brush
fucking mouth, but I'm talking to Prime right now, not you, Ray. If Prime wants me to turn on my cam,
go brush your fucking teeth before you speak to Prime. I mean, go brush your fucking teeth. What are you doing? Go brush your fucking teeth and get ready.
As clean as the fucking
Maybe Republicans
are they? Did your dentist give you a fucking clear out for that? Are you sure? I think you're lying to me.
Too.
Give you a sticker, bull fucking shit.
Right.
You're lying to me. You're lying to me right now. Show me your fucking teeth. Show me your teeth.
Yeah.
Show me your teeth.
3,000 people being like, "Hey, Dr. K."
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Beautiful fucking smile.
Great teeth. You have great teeth.
No,
you have a great frown.
What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, trust me, practice makes perfect, and I frown quite a bit, so I'm pretty good at it by now.
That resting bitch face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Resting bitch face. It's more of an active bitch face, but I'll take resting, sure.
I've seen it all.
Okay.
What's up, Dr. K? How you doing?
Shut your bitch ass mouth. What's up, Prime? What's the banter about tonight?
Just violence.
Someone tell her.
Yeah,
Look, Prime is sick tonight. He's literally he has a rough voice right now. He's trying to hold this thing together, right, with basically bubblegum and motherfucking duct tape, right? That's where we're at. Right, so like a lot of generosity is being thrown Prime's way in the result of this. So like Dr. K, like happy to
Till
see
the
you
wheels
tonight.
fall
I'm
off.
glad you decided to turn
Prime,
your
you
camera on.
gotta stop vaping, man. All
Till
this
the wheels
vaping's
fall
gonna
off.
fucking obliterate your throat. You can see it happening in real time. But hello.
Hey,
Yes,
just don't complain about the smoke, okay? It's okay. It happens.
That's right.
Yeah, since we have a lot of new panelists, how about we ask them their opinions on the, the original question of tonight about Republican cruelty?
Thank you.
It's commonplace and like not even surprising at this point.
Yeah, but have you seen Old Yeller? We covered that earlier. That's the question, right? Have you seen Old Yeller?
No.
Okay, Old Yeller, right?
I'm
and-
sorry I'm not a boomer, but
No,
Look,
Republicanism
is
Old Yeller does not explain the answer to the question. You were talking about we were talking about people shooting an active shooter in a mass shooting. This is totally inequatable to the question. What? This is a horrible straw man. Where are you, bro? Like, what are you on?
We covered right the entire fucking like ideology, right?
I'm just asking what strain you're smoking, bro, because I need to get some of that.
Look. I already went and put the jar of moonshine up.
Do I
There's
taste
literally
some ideology in the air?
Look, there is literally only like a couple of swigs left in the moonshine jar. Right, I can go get the rest of it if I need to. But the reality here is that the reason why we covered Old Yeller, right, is because of what Prime said earlier, right? And I'm trying to reiterate what Prime has already said, right? Is that the Republican cruelty by way of what is a perceived kindness, and because you haven't seen Old Yeller, it's hard for me to be able to do this without taking a little bit of time. So I see you doing the hands, but that doesn't actually help the situation.
Well, I mean,
right?
it's not perceived kindness. It is blatant cruelty.
If you would have, we would have been able to. If you had already seen Old Yeller,
Damn,
we'd already
bitch,
be able to.
fucking just
I
stay
know,
calm.
damn bitch! Like here we are, right? So,
Are you gonna say shooting down abortion rights is equivalent to shooting a dog in a movie? Is that what you're saying?
Republicanism is
cruelty. God damn it! If you had already seen Old Yeller, you would understand what we're talking about. But because you have already admitted that you have not, right? The reality here is that I need to explain Old Yeller.
I know what the movie is.
Well, if you fucking
Oh my God!
fucking yes to begin with.
Why
right?
did I be on?
You have a chronic case of can't shut the fuck up disease.
Can't
so
shut the fuck up because you decided to say fucking no. So
It's
who
okay. I
perpetuated
have it
this
too.
fucking
It's all
dynamic, right? So you perpetuate this dynamic. So I must explain Old Yeller, right? Old Yeller became infected with rabies.
Just get married and get it over
because he
with.
was defending the family, right? From a pack of wolves that fucking moved in, right? So like he defended the fucking pack, the family from the wolves that moved in to get the fucking cattle. He contracted rabies and was put in the fucking kennel, right? And Travis ultimately ended up having to shoot him because he had contracted rabies. So this is where we come to the understanding that, like, quote unquote, Republican cruelty is a measure of kindness, right?
No, Republicans are more like Cujo,
you
needing,
ignorant fuck. How's that?
politically and metaphorically to be
I
put
would
down.
say, right back at you, bitch. You're the ignorant one.
Right
This is
back at
pure
you,
ideology
bitch.
dick
Right
measuring.
back at you, bitch.
Like,
anything else? Did anybody hear what you said? No, they didn't, because I overtalked you because you were being condescending and fucking rude.
It's because you can't win in an argument of intelligence.
I
so
know.
Hi.
Okay. So, Dr. K, Cheney, talking about conservative cruelty, not just Republicans. So, conservatives in your country.
I love my fans, friends,
one of a free
joiners,
American, if
homies,
even some other country,
peoples,
talk about,
up in the cut,
your conservative party there.
hanging out like you just don't care.
Unless you don't have one.
Hey, I want to say, you guys all are beautiful in Discord. BT Dub.
Janie?
Okay, let me Okay, that was an interesting bit to do. Yeah, I had to appreciate it. You know, there's a lot of violence going on here. I just show up. The conservatives in our country aren't just cruel, they're incompetent. And that's where the biggest issue lies, in my opinion. The way they've handled COVID is such a mess that we had to wait so long
Look at my
in
down.
lockdown because
Look at my
the
down.
rates of infection were so bad that we just had to suffer along with it until it went away. And it ain't gone away yet. And then they've opened the country back up and people don't want to get vaccinated still, so we're just out here suffering, and I've got to explain to people why the vaccine is good and why it doesn't cause autism in 2021.
You guys locked down?
Yeah, they're locked down again. They had like a case of Delta and they just locked down.
We're not locked down now. We were locked down for a very long time though, over the winter time, and the problem is that they pulled the lockdown so late that the virus was out of control again by the time we actually managed to go into
do
a
my
lockdown.
best. I
So
do
we all
my
just
best
kind of
work.
like dithered about for too long, and then had to suffer the consequences when we couldn't do anything for like.
Guys, I give you guys the most horrible accents ever. I should not ever be allowed
And now
anywhere
we are
near voice acting.
having universities open back up again like last
Unless
year,
I'm going
which
to do
ended
some
up
smooth jazz.
and we've just gotta act like that's a
ASMR.
great idea.
Hey, we're
Universities
here
an
on
individual basis
KJZZ
are, like,
Radio.
We're not gonna like open up completely and most of the stuff's gonna be online, but the government's just like, just go back to normal, like nothing is wrong. Like just go and do whatever the hell you want. We don't care. And it's like, well, you might want to care. You may want to care because there is a fucking virus. You know, there has been a bit of a pandemic.
I wonder what would happen
we're
if
at
these guys had to
17
hear all these
variants right now.
noises in their head while they were debating. They'd probably be going
Seems to be
freaking
somewhat
nuts.
effective on some variants of reducing viral load. But this virus is likely endemic to the population. No. So
Wait, you
I'm just
can't
curious.
spread vaccine
Are you
misinformation
anti-vax
here.
unironically? Are you like
Wait, you
unironically anti-vax?
So I'm just curious.
I
if
got
the
your
virus
money.
If the virus is endemic to the population, do you just want to remain in lockdown forever, or do you recognize at a certain point that you're just going to have to live with this virus?
Well, no, but I also want to die. Look at my dad. My brother's got long COVID now. Why the hell would I just be like, I think it's 20% of people have symptoms over 3 weeks long, which counts as long COVID. Why the hell would you just be okay with that?
I mean,
Because there's consequences of both actions, right? Like a lockdown has consequences.
Yeah,
People
viruses
die
don't
from
last
lockdowns
forever, though. You can wait it out.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
more
the
people are
flu's
dying
still
from
fucking here,
COVID.
right?
Oh my god, it's not the flu, baby. That is
Flu
like
doesn't
so much
fill up
more
the
than
hospitals.
the flu.
Okay, so what? But the flu
was
is endemic.
COVID.
Yeah,
Do
he
you
was
think
just saying that
that-
it was endemic, not that it's as bad.
Right. The flu is obviously not as bad as COVID, but the flu is also endemic. And I think if you just pay attention to what's occurring, right? Like you can see the Delta variant cases and things of that nature.
He's gonna blame the. He's gonna blame the
Florida,
state.
right? Where there's a lot of fat and old people, right? or loose restrictions, right? It's happening in places that are heavily locked down as well.
The state did it.
Right?
Not based.
I don't understand. Right? So this is an
so
example.
transmissible, that's why.
Right, exactly. It's highly likely to mutate.
But do you
right?
actually think that there's as much of a chance of people spreading a disease if they're in lockdown versus if the country's open?
I mean, I think that increase.
People are going to come into contact with each other more.
Of course not.
I
But
think
the
it
problem
depends
is
on how
one of
much
the other
concentrated housing there is. It's regional.
Here's the thing. You do understand that if people get sick and die, there are economic consequences too, right?
Yeah, but also being locked down has economic consequences.
Right, but you
Yeah,
recognize that.
if 10% of your fucking workforce dies, there's gonna be big You know why there's a big fucking backup in the port that I work at right now? You know
Are people here
it's
really
because-
that anti-science? Are you guys really that
This
anti-science?
white ANCAP is so stupid.
Shit to you, right?
just literally
one of the
spread
big reasons. One of the big reasons we have a big fucking backup of freight at the port right now.
ANCAP
because
is
a
like
bunch of
however I
fucking
can make
port
money.
workers
That's
got
all that
fucking killed
matters.
because they didn't
I can get
lock
if I
down
can get a
this
dollar,
they
if I can get somebody to work
died.
for 50
So now
cents an
there's
hour,
a
I should be able to hustle them to work for 50 cents an hour.
Are you not able to see that, like, temporally, like, you can't just live in
They're
the now, right? You have to
horrible,
understand how things
horrible
track in the
dichotomy
future,
of people.
right?
Like,
if a virus is
morally
endemic,
bankrupt.
If a virus
Here's
is
the thing.
endemic and the vaccine doesn't appear to be reducing the transmissibility of other variants. For some it
reality-
is, for others
the
it
reality
isn't.
is this,
right?
right? Is
The
if-
virus is going to spread. You're
if
going
the virus,
to get this fucking
if the
virus.
virus were equally effective everywhere, right? Which
Mhm.
it would be, you know, you would see death rates that are pretty much the same amongst all nations. The problem is that that is simply not true. If you
Right,
look
but
at Vietnam, and if you
presuppos-
look
your
at China, and if you
presupposition-
look at Laos, right, you can see that because they have taken hard and preventative measures at making sure to stem the flow by any means necessary, that these countries have drastically lower amounts of death, like
Yeah,
caused
you're
in
looking
them
in, you're
because of the
looking in the
virus.
now, and then assuming you're not understanding how this looks on a timeline.
Not-
Lots
Yeah,
of
the
assumptions.
entire
Like
fucking
if you
timeline
can't, if
has
you
been a
can't,
thing.
Well,
if
They've
you
been better
can't
dealing
stop
with it.
this virus,
There's
if you can't
lots of
stop this
assumptions.
virus
Yes, you
completely,
fucking can.
unless you can figure out a way to wipe out the virus.
Well,
the
that's what
only
they're
thing a
doing. You don't have to
lockdown
do
is
it the
doing,
first time.
Well, that countries
Nobody
have
does
done
it
it.
all
New
the
Zealand's
first
done it. There's no
time.
reasons
Holy
why we
crap,
couldn't get to a
dude.
zero
But
COVID,
you're
COVID
making a
plan,
lot
like-
of us look. You're making a
just
lot
like,
You're
of
gonna
us.
shut down the
let it
airports forever?
Well,
You're
you
making
just
a
wanna be
lot
like, let
of
it run free and see what happens.
They're,
but we
they're
know
just
what,
making
what
That's not
happens.
what I'm
excuses
saying.
for political cowardice.
Stop.
You're just being politically a coward.
Fucking stop.
Don't
right?
call me a political
I will
coward
not
just because I
stop.
disagree with
I would like to fucking Fabian shut the fuck up.
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry, I didn't know you
look,
were fucking
stop,
king of this
fucking
panel.
Stop. I want to hear what
Oh my
Queen
God.
Janie had to say.
Thank you.
Right? She was the one that started this shit, and I'm trying to help Prime out right now because I understand that he's sick. Right? So, Queen Janie, if you would.
Prime, first of all, I'd just like to say I hope you get better soon. And this is probably not good for your stress levels, which is going to affect your immune system. So that's all I'm saying. I was going to say to Fabian, why would we not want to aim for a zero COVID strategy? Why are we going to let this roam free still in the population when we know the consequences of that? We don't have unlimited healthcare resources to just be like, put our hands up and say, let it do whatever the hell it wants and we'll reap the consequences.
Your
we know that
question
we
has
can't
that
afford to do that.
presupposition.
Before you do that, CTV, someone muted you.
So your question has a built-in presupposition, right? Which is that I am against policies that I believe could actually eliminate the virus.
Okay, what are your policies then?
Right, I think that you should allow businesses the freedom. You should allow businesses the freedom to be able to deal with this virus in the way that they see fit.
What the hell does
and
that
not
mean?
have state power.
It's a
That's
collective
so
problem,
stupid.
though.
What are you going to say? Oh, well, if a business doesn't
You know-
want to enforce masks, then people can just spread the virus as much as they want
Absolutely,
between each other.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Do you
fucking
know how
brain
It would
reckless
be
that
irresponsible. It would be absolute. It would be.
It would be
Alright, so-
totally
so
irresponsible.
Why do you put so much faith in business? Why do you put so much faith in businesses? Businesses have proved over and over again to be so corrupt and so exploitative. Capitalism is built on exploitation. The only way capitalism ever works is with exploitation, is when you're exploiting workers through wages or exploiting slaves. So take your pick, because those are the only times that capitalism has ever worked anywhere.
Accept your false premise. I don't accept your false
here,
premise.
wages
that
I'm
capitalism
not
is
like some
inherently
hardcore
exploitative.
communist. I'm
Here's
not some
the thing.
hardcore communist. However, I do think that
even
if-
ignoring that, there's a simple concept at play, right? The incentive of a business is to make money. It's not to stop transmission of the virus, right? And so, if you're trying to lower the transmission of the virus, no, you are not going to trust business's discretion there, because that's not what they're here to do.
I would
right?
just like to add on to that and say that you will have areas that are hardcore Republican, hardcore, like, we don't give a shit about what happens with the virus. And then you're going to have the areas that are like, no, we actually do believe in science and we do care about the virus. And all
I've
you're
never
gonna
been to
see
that
is one
site.
area
I
being really
usually
badly
get a lot of
affected and the
stuff
other not,
from
because businesses are gonna
Solon.
do what their
I'm not
local,
plugging these
like,
brands. This is just
constituents want
stuff I
them to
like.
do. And you're gonna
Solon,
have that huge
Dickies,
divide, which we have now in America.
Black Craft Cult.
I say we,
I
at
like
least I'm not in
Black
America.
Craft
If the
Cult a
local
lot.
constituents don't want to follow the law,
Anything
they're
that's
not
Los Angeles Chargers, or even better if it's San Diego Chargers, because
You're right. So why even try? Am I right?
I'm OG San Diego boy originally.
You gotta like do a little bit.
No. This myth that you have to do something, so you're going to give the power of the state the ability to completely command, control the economy,
Come on,
right, is
You're being
absurd.
so You sound almost
especially when someone says
power to the states. They
Why are you
fucked
like
it up.
trying to scaremonger?
I love how when he doesn't like the argument, he's just, well, I don't accept your premise.
Like, all
That's
they
an
want you to
easy
do is
fucking
wear a mask 20
sellout.
minutes in Asda.
You're
and
not,
not
shit,
you're
I
not
gotta add
asking
one
for
to
that.
it.
That's not what you're advocating for. You're not.
You guys
advocating
can't
for
hold me to the F word
sensible
thing during
social
debates, because
distancing and wearing masks.
this is hot.
What you're
This is hot,
advocating for
man.
is lockdowns, right?
No, I'm not advocating for a lockdown. That's
Okay,
not what I'm
so you're not
advocating
advocating for a
When
lockdown.
when did I ever argue for a vaccine mandate or a lockdown in this? I said
Oh,
that
hell
there
yeah,
needs to
dude.
be restrictions. That is not the same as locking
What
down.
restrictions? Right, what restrictions?
Okay, first of all, you have to wear a mask when you're indoors. Keep a 2-meter distance. Get the hell away from me. If you don't want the virus on you, I don't want it spat in my fucking face. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that should just be a rule, COVID or otherwise. Quite frankly. I would make sure I would promote the vaccine and say we should probably like all get the vaccine because people are dying, so you might want to do that. Have incentives for people to get the vaccine would be the best thing. There's corporate incentives, but also to have some kind of state incentive. I don't know how that would look, but to encourage people to do that would be really fucking important because otherwise people are just going to
We have
don't wanna
we had
get the
some
vaccine,
vaccine lotteries and stuff.
vaccine.
But
Well, I would still want the other things, and I want to keep things like you don't need to open nightclubs. I don't think you should have nightclubs open at the minute. It's just not safe to do so. There's no way to be able to enforce social distancing in venues like that. Same with concert halls and other big venues where people are going to be in close contact with each other. It's just not viable at the minute. But if
Once
everyone's
you hit-
vaccinated,
So you're
Oh,
saying
gotcha.
That's what I'm
you
saying, and
advocate
you
for
need
the
to wait.
state to be able to have command control of the economy for
I mean,
public
that's not the
safety.
whole economy, is it? It's a nightclub. It's not the whole economy. I mean,
whatever happened to America that can do anything? Like, you guys are
the America.
we
This
just
is the
said, I mean,
America
it's a
that can do
virus, so what are you
nothing.
gonna
It
do?
can't even do
Exactly.
anything.
These guys bitch out at the first fucking sign that shit's getting rough. It's like, oh man, but what if I can't get fucking Cheerios at 3 a.m.? It's like, fuck your fucking Cheerios, right? We're trying to accomplish something bigger for the good of humanity.
They disagree with you. That's what it is. It's not about their willpower. It's about the fact that your sense of right and wrong isn't just
It's not that too
automatically
selfish
correct.
to make any considerate change to their
Yeah,
own life, which
exactly.
affects
No,
everybody
but
else.
you bitch out when there's a collective action problem right in front of you, and you say, no, I am not going to do the one small thing I need to fix the collective action problem. I'm going to fester. I'm going to let it get worse over time instead of collaborating with my fellow American so that we can have a fucking functioning nation state. You're
See,
instead
this is the
so
problem with
fucking
authoritarians
self-interested.
like
I'm not
bro,
fucking authoritarian. I'm trying to make sure you don't die from a fucking virus, you stupid bitch. God damn.
Closing a nightclub authoritarian. Come on, that's a bit dramatic.
Every society needs an element of authoritarianism. That does not mean they are an authoritarian society. That's a stupid argument.
Look, I'm all for the idea of if you want to go to a restaurant or if you want to go to a concert or if you want to do these things where it can be like a super spreader type shit, you should bring your vaccine fucking proof with you, and you should not be let in unless you have your vaccine proof, because then all the restaurants and all the old people that want to
What's my count
be
at?
part of society, or the immunocompromised people, can never fucking go out without risking their life unless we have those
yeah, it's
things
your
in place.
personal wants coming over the good of
Yeah, I
everyone.
know.
around you.
How is that my personal want?
Why do you want the state to force
Because
it?
I don't want people to die as much. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
vaccine mandate.
The only fucking
I think
is the
vaccine
virus
mandates going
endemic?
to school,
Is
going
the
on
virus
airplanes,
endemic?
all this shit's perfect. It's actually amazing.
Is the virus endemic?
Wait, why does that matter? Hold on. In terms of
Because if the
in terms of-
virus isn't endemic, if the virus isn't
Hold on, let me finish my
question.
Wait, chill. Okay.
is the virus endemic?
I don't
Do you,
really
do you
care.
genuinely believe that
Wait.
public policy can wipe the virus out?
Especially if it's endemic.
No,
Wouldn't you
obviously
want
not.
to? Wouldn't you want to at least encourage or try to pressure people into getting vaccinated?
Well, that's a totally separate conversation about the effect.
No, but you're also pushing back on any notion of the state being involved in, maybe regulating things like nightclubs to only allow people that are vaccinated to attend.
I'm perfectly okay with businesses saying you can't come in here unless you
So
want.
you're an authoritarian too. It's just you're okay when they that authoritarianism.
No, people that's what it means to
voluntarism.
own something. Yeah, but that's what it means to have a property. If you have a property, you get to say whatever happens in your property. That's what it is. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
About whether or not it's
No, the
voluntary.
state doesn't own us. The state doesn't own us. So the
They
state
do,
doesn't get.
by the way.
No, they
They
don't.
do.
No, they don't.
That's
You
the
think that-
fucking
you
problem.
think that-
It's from the state.
Social contract.
Take that land. You can't do whatever the hell you want with it. That's not how it works. I don't know if you
If you
know
think
that.
that's
like
the fucking
me just
problem we
buying a
have,
house
that you
doesn't
think
mean I
the
can start
state owns
building
me.
bombs in
Yeah.
my house because I want to build a bomb in my house. You can't do that.
Hobbs rolling in his grave.
If you think
You
that,
think we
that's the
should
fucking
own
problem.
nukes?
Yeah. That's the
Should
fucking
we all
problem.
have
That you don't think
personal
we own
nukes?
ourselves.
You need all. We need all freedom for everyone.
Yeah, personal
We want freedom
nukes.
for the world.
F-16 is everybody's front yard, you know, fully loaded.
You'll get arrested. You'll get like someone's
Does
gonna
anyone
come
have? Does anyone have an anarchist bingo card with there will be everyone will just have their own personal nukes? Like, fuck out of here! Like, it's just a fundamental misunderstanding how economics works. Like,
I don't even want to.
Yeah.
Never mind a
Yeah.
fucking nuke.
What economics is.
You know what I mean?
I think it's more the deregulation and not giving a shit out of anybody except for how much money you can make in the market that bothers me. I think that's the part that bothers me. I think the part that bothers me about it is the fact that only the rich are the ones that are in control, and that's what usually happens.
Me.
How is that different from the state controlling everything?
The
Like, how
question
is that
is,
different from the state controlling everything?
Oh,
what you
when the
wanna-
business controls everything, Amazon controls most of our country. What do they represent? 30% of the jobs in our country?
Because that's how it
They're the second largest employer.
Hang on, everybody. Go for a second.
Prime is talking.
Sorry.
I want Lucas to go. I want to hear from him, please.
Okay, so the difference is that we want individuals to be able to own themselves and decide what happens in their own life. You want to get this power, take it away from the individual, put it all in the fucking state, and then the state owns it, and it tells us what the fuck to do. This is why I fucking left my country, because
I'm
of the
just
state.
asking you to get a mandate, bro. I'm asking you to vaccine. That's all.
There's such an emotional argument.
That's such a horrible misunderstanding.
It's not.
Are you genuinely
I'm also-
trying to equate like vaccinations with being owned by the
Listen,
state?
I'm very curious. I'm very curious. Do I have the right?
No one's
as
showing up
as
at
a
your
free
house to
person,
vaccinate
as a
you.
free
Guys,
person, do I have the
wait a
right?
minute. Wait a
Do
minute.
I have the right
Hang
to
on.
interact with society without having to deal with a bunch of viruses that could kill
Dumb
me?
fucks. I mean,
Apparently not.
So I want to go out and interact normally, but if I'm an old person, maybe I'm like 50, 60, 70, I'm probably not really that free to go outside and do whatever. If a virus is going around pretty wildly, I'm gonna die. That's not very free. However, you mandate a little vaccine. It's not gonna be that big of a deal on a lot of people, and then hey, we're all good. We're all chilling.
Or even without a mandate, if you want to go and enjoy the things that like many people
So
enjoy,
lockdowns
the
or
privileges
vaccines?
of life. Wait, if you want to enjoy the privileges of life, like restaurants, you don't have a right to go to a restaurant. You don't have a right to go to a concert. You don't have a right to do all these things.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't. You don't have a right. You do not have a right to go.
Wait, they're anarchists. They're crazy.
Nobody's got no one. You don't have a right to do anything. I appreciate you making the argument for me that the state is taking away all of your rights.
No, you want to transfer this.
Hey, Prime, can I jump in?
Yeah, actually.
So give the state power to all the corporations, all the people with money. Get the fuck out of here with this
So
dog
we all
shit.
agree that the state has powers to like at least restrict your right to do
I'm hanging steady at 8, guys.
They do not agree.
I'm hanging steady at 8. I can't seem to get under 8.
Whether or not you hang on, whether or not you can drink and drive, whether or not you
Yes,
can
bro,
sit in public, whether or
yo.
not like the state has to have some power to regulate like
Oh, new album drops
some
tomorrow, or it's done, right?
Okay.
New album's done.
So everybody agrees that the state has this power.
You guys gotta check out Caspro, yo.
Wait, they have it, but
okay.
they have it doesn't mean it should.
So do you think the state shouldn't be wait a minute. Do you think the state shouldn't make it illegal to drink and drive?
I don't believe in a state.
Oh my
You're asking.
Hang on. Everybody chill. You didn't answer the question.
Yes, I did.
No,
I don't
you
believe the
didn't.
state should exist. Therefore, it shouldn't have the right to
We're
do
not
anything.
talking about whether or not the state should exist. The state.
So he's saying no.
currently-
He's saying no. He's saying no.
Stop. The state
saying-
currently exists. as
Okay.
the state currently exists, should it have the power to do that?
No.
Not talking whether or not the state should exist or not.
No.
Okay, then I think there's just a fundamental disagreement then.
Yeah,
Then-
exactly.
Okay, I thought you
wait,
were the
wait,
most
wait.
radical
I mean,
person I
obviously,
met.
you're saying
Wait
with
a minute.
murder.
This is why
Wait a minute.
this is why
Hang on.
conversations with
Wait.
Fabian get a little difficult because you have to attack the idea of anarchism to actually get to the fundamentals of these discussions, which it's kind of difficult to discuss with Fabian these things. At least that's why I haven't been particularly going at him for that. Because it's just different. We're just
So obviously, like, it's the same. It goes all the way up to murder for you. Like, murder is fine as well because the state is like, I mean, not fine.
That's not the same.
It's not the same.
I'm dying.
How is that? That's
Phalanx, did you have anything else? And then we'll go to Dr. K.
Yeah, I just wanted to be real quick. So, like, the conversation is just about anarchism. It's not about any of this other petty shit that everyone just keeps. We're in a fucking jumbled mess right now. So if we want to fucking focus on anarchism, let's fucking do that, rather than like bringing up tactical nukes and shit.
Dr. K.
Base.
I mean, the reality of it is power pools, when left in a vacuum, you leave.
Well, that's what packed the punch.
You leave institutions long enough, and they will over time accumulate power. And so, oftentimes the question then boils down to which institutions do you want to have institutional power, right?
Not the state.
Not the state. All right. Which institution? I have a shelf behind me. I have every institution you could imagine that hangs on it. Which institution would you like to pick from the shelf and say this one will have international institutional power?
Individuals.
Individuals. Excellent. So like unions and stuff like that.
If the individuals want to start unions, well, they can go ahead and do it. I'm not
But
gonna
if
start a
individuals
union.
want to start a government,
They can go ahead and do it. As long as they're not forcing me to do it, that's fine.
Well,
That's
I
fine.
mean,
I'm just lost.
So
I
aren't
feel
we
like
in anarchism right now? Because we're all pretty okay with the idea of what we're in.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Well, hey, we've all decided, hey, I want to be in a democracy.
Listen, I don't know
We
what
haven't
Lucas's
decided that.
position is, but Fabian's position is that corporations should have the ultimate power. He's not bothered about anarchy.
R.I.P.
No, they're also anti-corporatism.
Corporations should
What
be able
happened?
to decide what people
So-
do.
Anti-corporate.
Feed that.
Transferring the power.
Are we
is transferring
FFF'd?
the power
No.
from
Gentlemen,
the
I
government
haven't finished
to the corporations.
my coherent thought, if we may. Okay. So, all right. So you want it
CTV
to
left
be
when his
essentially individuals as the institution
views
with
started
ultimate
dropping.
power. That's.
When
I
you
would
stop
say
getting
one
sound
not
bites
really
going like
institution
this.
that exists in a coherent way right now. There's free association groups and clubs, you could say. But let's say this, right? Is essentially if the government is removed as an institution right now, the institution that will then take power over all of our lives would be whatever institution exists right behind the government in terms of collective action power.
Wait,
right?
wait. I don't know about Fabian. Wait, I don't know
Whatever-
about Fabian.
Dear,
let me
may
make
I
something
please
clear.
finish? May I please finish
Sure, it's
one
just that you're
coherent
going on a
fucking
tangent.
thought?
Go
No,
ahead.
Lucas, I'm explaining fucking basic shit, right? So, if the government is removed, the institution that is most able to solve collective action problems will be the institution that takes over power from there. So what institutions can do that collectively right now? There are actually a few. It's not just corporations, right? There are other things as well. You have mega churches, you have militaries. Those are also institutions that can solve these collective
Stream
action
Dad.
problems that, barring a state, could, take form. Unions also can do collective action problems. These are things that could take power should a government be removed from the situation. The issue is what are the incentives of these institutions? Because every institution operates under an incentive, right? An incentive of a state is it has this big line that it's drawn around a piece of land, and it says, all right, the people under this, we rule, and we get prestige and legitimacy and all sorts of fun accolades and monetary and material rewards for making sure that the people under here thrive as much as possible, right?
Yeah. The problem
The
with
social incentive of a corporation is to make profit. The social incentive of a religious institution is to get converts. the social incentive of a union is to get the goods for the people who are members of that union, right? And the social incentive of a military is to conquer. Like those are essentially the incentives of these various institutions.
I don't think these institutions have incentives. The individuals inside them do. I think that. I feel like that's kind of. Now, don't get me wrong. I disagree. I'm okay.
Institutions are made up of not but collectives of individuals who decide to collectively pool their time and energy.
There's no collective incentive. There isn't.
I would
There's no
actually
such a
agree
thing
with
as
Dr.
the
K.
collective. There's no
People
such a
do
thing as the
things
collective.
for the honor of the country, for the honor
Sorry, I
of
can't help
God,
it.
right? There are collective
I'm getting
incentives at
annoyed.
play.
That's still an individual doing something.
This ANCAP guy is driving me nuts.
With Dr. K here, right?
Yes,
right.
because
I mean,
it's
like
basic shit.
It's like Carl Jung said, right? Like people don't have ideas; ideas have people. The institution takes on a life of its own, and even though the individuals have their own incentives within that system, the system itself has a desire, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like a corporation is might have a fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders. That doesn't mean that necessarily the individual has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, but instead the individual wants to make profit, wants to climb up the corporate ladder, wants to make money within the system, and the best way that they do that is by feeding the needs of the institution that they're in, right? If I can solve problems within this corporation, I can make this corporation more efficient and more profitable, and thus this corporation will reward me. The institution rewards me, and the institution thus rewards society. I mean, or rewards the shareholders, for example.
So we can try to empower the individual, but ultimately individuals are going to coalesce into institutions, right? And these institutions are going to enact sort of a collective will.
Essentially, everything he wants to do can never really happen.
At what the incentive
because the end result is exactly what he's fighting against.
Because if it is an incentive that is bad for the environment, for the people that exist either in or outside of that institution, it can do some really nasty stuff. And here's the thing, right? I am not an anarchist. But I am honestly sympathetic to anarchist beliefs. I genuinely believe that, yes, there are some really fucking perverse incentives that exist for states as they exist currently.
Yeah.
There certainly are.
Everyone can agree to that, though.
Yeah, ethnic revanchism is an obvious and easy example of shit like that, right? But I would say, be careful to...
Corporations are just as bad.
Well, thank you. If I could finish talking, I would get to that. Yeah.
Not worse.
Yeah. So just keep in mind that this mythical individual that you want to empower is never going to exist in a totality way that you're trying to look, because that individual, understanding that he is more powerful when acting in a group, will work with an institution, and that institution will coalesce into a either state or state-like group that will enact collective will. And if their incentive is worse than a state, you have just replaced states with something far more authoritarian. Keep in mind.
Oh, I want to go to Janie and then Lucas.
I mean, my cat.
All right, guys, I'm gonna drop off. I'm ready.
People, we don't want them anymore. Cats need to be in power, and they will use their collective bargaining power to kill all dogs. That's not me. That was her. Wasn't. She said it. I promise.
This is why we shouldn't.
Hey, quickly, I gotta hop off. I'll see you guys. Have a good night.
Okay, fuck you first and